Welcome to our midweek end of week show. You know what happened, don't you? It was postponed. So, welcome to our postponed midweek Doctor Who feast of fun and nostalgia and debate. A taster for the weekend in the end. Yes, I failed to reverse the polarity on my streaming platform. Entropy had ravaged it. A Cyberman had fixed the trajectory and fired a last minute bolt, stopping me from being able to affect it. It was all a trick, advertising Wednesday to get the Riven onto that stream and blast it into e-space. Something like that. Yes, I had a power cut in my village of the damned. Devil's End has nothing on this village. No raw reenactments like The Awakening either. Not as dead and quiet as the android invasion village, but the village of perpetual power cuts nonetheless. It will be midweek Wednesday night, 7 p.m. during the season. If it works, I shall say. It was written in the stars, if it happens that way. So I better start bringing on my panel. So let me just set up. It's all a bit technical here. I've got to get myself all in order. You know how it is. Right. Okay, so let's welcome one of our guests straight away. Let's see. Get myself in position. So, hello, Gary. Hello. I thought I'd surprise you. Well, Gary.
I was chatting with the chat.
Well,
Brendan?
I've got a little question for you here. I mean, we were talking about the sets in Boom, the sets recently, the LED screening, but let's look at that set. Look at the Marco Polo one, the Dalek set. I mean, they knew how to do it all along.
Yeah, especially the perspective in the Dalek city, and I mean, bear in mind, even that was. You're right. That looked better, and that was designed to be viewed on a small, scratchy, black and white TV with nowhere near the kind of transmission quality that we have now. And both of those pictures are spectacular. I wish that they wouldn't have put Ian in a skirt, but I guess that's kind of...
Well, a bit of. I love the way they did the clippity clop of the metallic city. I mean, they thought of everything with that one. Anyway, I'll bring in John now. And John, here's a picture for you. This is just how they used to do it, John. I mean, gosh, look at that, the chase.
Oh, that's fantastic, isn't it? And, on a shoestring budget, they made it magical. Whereas now they've got loads of money and they're struggling to make people believe it's real.
And that had the actual Beatles in it.
It did.
Well, yeah, the real ones. And they had the real lyrics. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, but it just goes to show, I just want to say, it just goes to show, I mean, the power of imagination. Why I love the classic series, which I kind of grew up with, because even now, I mean, you have to, as a viewer, to make up for the kind of budget shortfalls at the time, but with really imaginative stories. But you had to meet the story halfway. You kind of had to get out of yourself and fill in the mental holes and fill in the story holes and the effects holes. So it engaged the viewer in a way that just watching, any of New Who, you just kind of sit there like a sponge and kind of absorb all the great graphics and effects and stuff. But it doesn't call on you to engage with it as an imaginative viewer like the classic series.
I just want to say as well that I've heard rumors that the BBC and Disney got hold of the time space visualizer to try and boost the ratings. So I've heard a few rumors and a few sources have come out to say that. So I just want to put it out there.
Wow.
They'll do anything. Anyway, I better say hello to Sean. He's been sitting. I brought him on. Hello, Sean. Is he there?
Sorry, hello, I'm here. Sorry, I was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at that. I mean, this. I mean, I'm trying to say that never mind us talking about, but we'll have our final words on Boom later. We'll have our preview of 73 Yards. We'll have our nostalgic time flash of the Demons, and we'll talk about our favorite episode 3s of Classic Who. But look at that TARDIS. I mean, my God, do you need that warehouse TARDIS?
Well, no, of course you don't. I mean, as we were both saying, both John and Retrodoc, I've been talking about Gary, I've been talking about, you don't need that and your imagination can fill the gaps in. This is why books are so successful, because the human brain will come up with something so imaginative that doesn't matter if you've got billions behind it. Very rarely, unless you make a planet, are you going to, hit the same vision that somebody will get in their mind. That's why there's such a disappointment a lot of the time with book to film adaptations, because it doesn't live up to what people think.
Yeah.
You don't need it. Writing will shine through. You see that with, I know it's newer Who, but look at Midnight. It's literally set in a box, and it works beautifully.
Well, let's bring our actress friend Rachael on, see what her opinions are. So, Rachael, I'll show you another set. Would you have liked to act? Oh, look at that! Would you have liked to have acted on that set?
Oh yeah, there's nothing like the classics, is there? Look at that. Shiny Dalek, shiny floor.
I'd want to be in a Dalek.
Yeah, me too. But it, even though I know it's cheap, it doesn't look cheap. It doesn't look tacky. It's very practical. It serves its purpose. Look at that.
Yeah, high walls. I mean, I can imagine being an actor having to, think you're in peril, but I could run down that corridor thinking I am in peril being chased by that thing. I could.
Well, yeah, you technically are in peril as well, because if they're cheap budget sets, you're likely to fall through the set. So technically you are in peril. So you have a good reason to run.
But that's a really good point. That's a really good point that Rachael makes. I mean, back in the classic series, they made the most with what they had. But now, I mean, with all of the mega millions that Disney's putting in there, it doesn't even look to me like they're making the most with the budget they have, because there's been a couple of shots in this season that have looked shockingly cheap to me. And I'm going, wow, you'd think it would be, this should be like an IMAX movie on the television.
Well, Gary, what about this then? What about this? Underworld. There you go. Classic Underworld, where they had to set themselves up. But you see, it was of its time. I cannot slag off old Doctor Who, because they really were always pushing. Sometimes it looked as though they'd pushed it too far. But I think Doctor Who, with Boom and everything, is living within itself. I know they were chuffed to death. They bought that LED screen and they're going to keep it now, aren't they? And I'm not knocking the effects of Boom at all. It's just that Doctor Who has always been cutting edge. And that is cutting edge for its time.
I will say that LED backboard, it acted better than Shooty. So, at least they've got that going for it. But that LED technology is nothing new. I mean, I didn't even know that was there. I thought that was just CGI'd in. I mean, you want to see a behind the scenes of a film that used it really well. Look at First Man. Look at that.
Well, yeah, this is I'm sure everybody knows Web Planet and the Aztecs. We might be mentioning the Aztecs later, but look at that. I mean, it takes your imagination there. I sometimes wonder if in the media industry now they are obsessed with almost spending the money on the wrong things. Does a kid with their imagination really need to feel as though they're actually on another planet, or do they just need to have a damn good story and good character, and we're guided to a kind of different setup? I don't know.
We've gone backwards, haven't we? Because I think now that there's an element of laziness with it, where it's just quickly let's do a quick bit of cheap CGI, put it on. I think it's called the volume or something like that. Disney technology. Whereas, like you say, there were geniuses back in the day who literally put sets together on a shoestring. I mean, Planet of Evil is a classic example of how wonderful a set can be created by a genius. They would make these people blush now with what they were able to do.
He did. Philip Hinchcliffe did try and nominate Murray Leach, wasn't it? Roger Murray Leach for BAFTA, because that was phenomenal. That set was that Elstree.
Yeah, it was. I think, and it wasn't, but it was just like the levels to it,
And just you know what? Look at that. You know what? I cannot take my eyes off of the painting in the back of the Aztecs, the perspective of that it goes on forever. And look at how just that one piece of art there to kind of create the idea of this Aztec empire stretching off into the distance. That's better than any computer program that creates CGI could do today.
Yeah. And I mean, the character will carry it, the dialogue will carry it, but you've got what would you call it, Rachael? If this was theatre, you just need to show the audience a kind of hint of where we are.
It's a backdrop.
Yeah, that's it. You don't need to be there.
A lot of theatres still use this method. Even in West End, they still use this method. because it's like a perspective backdrop. It's incredibly difficult to do that sort of thing. So yeah.
So there you go. We will talk about Boom in a moment. But yes, in the meantime, oh God, hold on. Well, I mean, I thought I had to be topical. I mean, let's be honest with it. I mean, what is going on? I mean, they thought they were cool and they were taking on Michael Grade from the 80s, those two. But I wonder if we took a photograph now whether Michael Grade could be going,
pushing them away, yeah.
I'm not too sure they have a right to be angry with him anymore.
Do we know what Michael Grade thought of Space Babies or Devil's Court?
and by the way, Archer Colin, we just gonna have final words on the Boom. Don't worry. Anyway, I'm going
to try and have final words on it. I'm going to try.
We're going to, and I'm going to try say now. We've called this a state of decay. Because it was going to be midweek, of course, until Entropy hit my streaming, and I had a few references. So, of course, if you go with me here, folks, and fandom, lovely place. We thought we were in a happy place as fans. There we go. And then, of course, there's us wondering as fans, which direction are we going in after the Geordie and the Chibnall years? Which direction do we go in? Then, of course, we got these new leaders, power hungry. We'll call them Bad Wolf. We'll call them Disney. We'll call them Julie, Jane, RTD, Phil. I mean, it's a big crowd actually now. There they are. Or should I be saying, there they are. There they are. Not Millie Gibson, bless her. That's just a nice publicity shot in the middle there. And so, we've gone into eSpace. Our version of eSpace now in 2024 with the TV production is Fantasy La La Land, i.e. this. That's our eSpace now. Can we get out of it? Are we trapped there for years? Well, I've made 2 seasons. And they're living it up. They think they're great. They've got an answer for everything. They know what they're doing. They know how to talk to their public. They know what the fans need. They know what the younger generation need. And of course, Orkon himself, look at him there with Adric, which just reminded me of RTD and Shooty. Yeah, if you think about it, Orkon, the bloodthirsty vamp killing the series. Oh yeah, there you go.
And that's a way better story.
And if it's not if that isn't like our up-to-date version of Orkon and Adric, what about that one? All possible. So hence why I went down my state of decay road, where basically if a fan speaks up nowadays saying they just happen not to like something, which is allowed. I did look the other day and I thought we were in a democracy. And the sign of a good democracy is everybody who's got intelligence, is educated, therefore who can speak, has a right to speak and has a right to have an opinion and has a right to ask a question. And actually, the one of the definitions of education is the art of inquiry, and inquiry is from critical thinking. And all these fans are doing, as you know, around the world, is going, why are the ratings not as good as we said they were going to be? Why is the program doing this? And as soon as we do it, we've got these trolls all around us flagging us off. So yeah, it did remind me of State of Decay. So the big question is, what happens next? We know what happened in State of Decay. The Doctor triumphed. But I'm just wondering if we will triumph this time, because 2 seasons are in the bag. So that's why I called it State of Decay, because I could see that moment. And by the way, Gan, you know, I mentioned Space Babies, and I know I'm bringing back bad memories for everybody. Are you ready? What about these type of Space Babies? Would you like these?
Be better, wouldn't it?
Yeah, wow. I mean, I saw this somewhere on Facebook or something. Somebody had kind of used an app and got the actual actors and done something to make them useful.
That's really good.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of fun. That
the Davis one's great.
So there you go. Yeah, Space Babies. The actors taken back. And of course, are we all in the mood for actually buying this?
Oh, I haven't bought it.
Have you seen the other cover? There's 2 versions, and the other one. Have you seen the other one?
No, I've only got that one.
There's 2 of them. Yeah, there's 2 versions. and that one looks interesting. The other one looks like they're about to dance. So they are very, very close in the.
Can I just say, I know that everybody go ahead and call me an iskaphobe now. Shooty looks like a complete idiot on that cover.
I'm going to back you on that one.
Because Jonathan Groff's a hell of an actor as well. Like,
I mean,
I've
that
seen him in
just
Mindhunter
looks
and stuff.
stupid.
He is a good actor. Well, okay then. Shall I look as though I'm sitting on the fence, although it's not a place I tend to sit? But Gary, go on then. Explain why you think he looks stupid. What do you mean?
First of all, that's not the doctor. The doctor doesn't need to dress up, change his wardrobe every time he lands in a different environment or planet or whatever. That's not the doctor. And that look on Shooty's face is just, I don't know what it is, whether it's, feigned, just, superior. There's nothing welcoming
I can tell you, Gary,
in his stance or his face or anything.
I can tell you straight away what that look is. He's looking out towards the lawn and he's seeing thousands of people touching grass. That's why he's got that facial expression on at this very moment.
Yeah, I mean, John, at least I guess he's wearing pants and
step up, yeah.
I mean, has he taken a hint from the Space Babies and he's wearing is he wearing a nappy and he's filled it? I don't know what that face, and he's got a whiff of it. I don't know what that face is.
Oh,
I really don't.
Rachel, come on, it's acting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's acting.
It looks like Joy. Tell you what it looks like. Sorry, Rachel. It looks like, if you've ever seen Friends, it looks like Joy smelled the fart acting. That's what it looks like. That's a bit of a millennial joke now. Sorry, Rachel. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't worry, I'm millennial as well. I know what you mean. Cocky. It's cocky. It's like, I'm better than you.
Well, at least he's not crying. So
floods.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it will be right next to the Doctor Who, the classic logo. I mean, if you ask anybody what image comes to mind when you think of Doctor Who, there's going to be about 10 billion and one images that come to mind before this image comes up as something that you think of when you think of Doctor
Who. Do you know what this reminds me of, this picture? I don't know why, but it reminds me of that episode, and I can't remember what it was called, where it was David Tennant and another, I can't remember who the actor was either, because I only ever watched it once, but he believes that he becomes the Doctor.
Oh, the next Doctor with
the next
David
Doctor.
Morrissey.
That's what it makes me think of. I don't know.
It would have been a great Doctor, David Morrissey.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's true. I'm just reading this as well from David Mullen. Hiya, David. And we'll come to the thread in a moment. But DWM, I wish I had any interest in it. I've just subscribed again. Don't ask me why, but I did. And I get it. And I flick through. I might look at the previews and then it gets put down again. This is the problem. And David, I'm with you on this one. I do try and read it, but it isn't writing to me at all. It's just not. It's just.
Yeah. When RTD was announced as coming back and they announced Tennant was coming back and they were relaunching Doctor Who magazine, I was like, yeah, I'm going to jump on. It's a relaunch. Let's give it a go. But I got a few issues in and it was just awful. I just couldn't keep going with it. It's a shadow of its former self. It's really sad to see.
Indicative.
And bear in mind, I know we're going to talk about 73 yards later. As however good or whatever quality wise this episode is this weekend, everybody bear in mind this is coming next week.
Is it next week? I get mixed up when it's not in the bubble.
It's the one. It's next week. It's episode 5.
Okay. Oh, Sean. I think you've got a date. There you go.
It's all right. I know him. I can't. Calm yourself down, Paul. You're Scottish. You can't be falling for an Englishman. That's a fate worse than death. I'm joking, by the way, if anyone's wondering.
Well, do you know what? We've had a nice cheerful start, and I'm going to spoil it, aren't I, in a moment? Yes, just so people in the thread know where we're going to. We're going to just obviously have a quick ratings update because it seems to be every few days we get a glean of a bit more information. We're not going to go over everything again. Every stream's done it. My stream's done it. But we'll just update you on a few things. And then the next item will be, we'll look obviously forward to 73 yards. I mean, we are Doctor Who fans after all, and it hasn't been killed yet because we haven't watched it. So we'll have a bit of anticipation with 73 yards, and then we will have our time flash on the Demons, just to give you a kind of steerage. So basically, yeah, I think we have to talk about the ratings and our update on them. And you know, when I update you, I have a bit of a jingle. And you know, when I made that, I didn't really, of course, I was just trying to cut the beat dead with some scary music. But the scary music is, when you do talk about the ratings, you need scary music. You know, I think it's spot on nowadays. So where are we up to date on the ratings? Well, here we go. This is from Gary Lee. I will acknowledge Gary Lee every single time when I'm using this material. But basically, on iPlayer, Boom, the latest episode, only had 78,000 people streaming on iPlayer between midnight and obviously the actual transmission of the show on Saturday night. That was down from 115,000 previous. So, you know, so there's one factor of the streamers. You know, they're mad on streamers. They think that's the future. Well, doesn't look like it. And
Brandon, I'm totally shocked. I thought that, you know, like Jinx Monsoon said, for every one person that leaves, we're going to get 2 to 3 people, new people that come. You mean he was wrong?
Well, he was meaning 7 + 4 on the iPlayer.
Well, let me come to Rachel then. I know you have a bugbear about streaming. I mean, these figures. I mean, does this correlate with your bugbear?
Well, kind of. So 78,000. That's not a lot, but most people at that time are in bed, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, you didn't
actually,
stay up like RTD said to do, to have a party.
Oh no, that's not my style.
Awake.
I'm such a sado. I don't do things like that. Anyway, so my bugbear is, I went to watch Boom on Saturday and I couldn't actually find it on the iPlayer, and this was before the actual airing in the evening. I couldn't find it. Weren't we led to believe that the episode would actually stay up all day on the iPlayer?
Wait, you mean it wasn't?
It wasn't on the iPlayer. I couldn't find it, unless I was just looking in the wrong place, but I couldn't find it.
Maybe instead of Boom, maybe you should have searched for Splat. That might have been a better.
It might have worked. Yeah, I managed to find. Is it? Are they calling it Unleashed now?
Yeah.
What are they calling it?
Oh yeah.
Unleashed. I managed to find that, but I couldn't find.
Doctor Who Confidential. Yeah.
Well, these are interesting, and this is Gary Lee again. I'll put your name up again, but I showed the first 2, which is episode 1 every 5 minutes, episode 2 every 5 minutes, and let's update it and compare. Episode 3 every 5 minutes. You can see in the final column the audience share, and you can see how it went per minute. And of course, with the latest one, Boom, which we will be talking about later, you start with 2.09 million, you end with 1.52 million. It goes up and down like a yo-yo, but basically people are checking out. You know,
that's a massive check.
Have you noticed with Boom? And like I said, we can mention things now. It doesn't really matter because if it's relevant. But have you noticed there's a moment when he's standing on the landmine, and then have you noticed with 10 minutes to go, you lose 700,000. So where did the tension go? See what I mean? Was it when we got the hocus pocus nonsense at Daddy Power and all the rest of it? So it really is interesting. And of course,
did the sun come out or something at that point, and they all ran outside?
Not up here.
The good weather.
Britain's Got Talent also came on at 7:30.
So basically, Rachel, how does that make sense? I'm watching a drama. I'm watching a drama and I'm very tense. Will he live? Will he die? Will Millie save him? Oh my God, I can't deal with this. This is the best episode ever, said RTD. And then and with 10 minutes to go, I think I'm going to watch some kids dancing in a ballet outfit and everything. What? I mean,
At
really?
least I know I'm getting that from Britain's Got Talent. If I put that on, that's what I'm half expecting. I'm not
Yeah. With Britain's Got Talent, you know what you're going to get. Are they in? I don't know where they are because I don't watch it. But are they in the audition phase? Because normally it's the audition phase that
I
gets
think
the
so.
most
Yeah.
I think they
viewers
are, yeah.
ratings.
But people are
'cause
still
it's the
watching it, aren't they?
funniest.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
People are still watching it. Like my mum, for example, watched Doctor Who in the Tennant era and the Eccleston era. My whole family watched it. My mum watched it because she loved a bit of David Tennant. My dad watched it because he enjoyed it with me. And now my mum was like, "Oh, I didn't even know he came back." And she talks about, Britain's Got Talent. My dad has watched a few and thought, it's not great, but it's a lot.
But look at those numbers in the last 10 minutes. So the minute that a halfway decent alternate show comes on, they lose 6% of their viewers from 19 down to 13, and they lose what looks to me like around 1.5 million to
Well-
2.25. So that's like 700,000 people in 10 minutes that they, unless, is my math right, John?
Well, if you think about it, if you said it was 21 and that's 7, 3 sevens is 21. So basically it's about 29% of the audience they lose at 7:30. If you talk about the 700,000 people out of 2.26, it's about 29% of the audience has just gone. Now, where's the tension? I mean, honestly, if you like to watch, remember, forget the streaming bit. If you're enjoying a program, you'd see it through, wouldn't you? And you can tape, you can record, you can catch up. Britain's Got Talent. You don't have to switch over immediately. So it didn't grab people.
And
Melanie
Britain's Got
Weston.
Talent.
Yeah, sorry, Sean, you go.
No, sorry, I was just thinking about TV, especially because obviously for the people listening from America and around the world, the difference is as well, if you're watching 40 minutes, whatever Boom was, if you're watching 40 minutes of that, because it's on the BBC, you don't have adverts because it's paid for by us already. If it's ITV has Britain's Got Talent, that'll have about, if it's on for an hour, it'll have at least 3 or 4 advertisement breaks. Rightly or wrongly. So really what you'd want to do is watch BBC, if you're there, you'll want to watch Doctor Who live, and then you'll think, right, well, I'll catch up with Britain's Got Talent 20 minutes in because I can zoom through the adverts. And yet the fact that people are getting to 7:30 and going, I can't watch this cack any longer.
It's also interesting that Archer Collins says this, because although I find out that 78,000 streamed it on iPlayer, yes, it would be interesting to see a similar breakdown of the figures for iPlayer. Do people check out? I mean, what I do know, and we mentioned it in our last stream, in our discussion, didn't we? That Disney, they said we found out that their dropout figures are terrible throughout the show. So basically, I can only guess, Archer Colin, that for iPlayer, not everybody sees it through till nearly 1 a.m.
Yeah. And I was going to ask a question on the figures as well from a Disney perspective, and I was going to put it to Gary as well, because Gary, you said before about the fact that on Disney Plus in the US, you have effectively so many adverts that pop up for different things while that episode is on. So people are probably going to tolerate it more if it's a program they're enjoying, but if they're suddenly getting distracted by episodes throughout an hour 45-minute episode, they're going to check out very, very quickly. So I actually think I'm going to say that when we do get figures for the US on Nielsen, I think it is not going to be very good at all. And I think it's quite telling at the moment that RTD, who was always shooting his mouth off the last few weeks, has been very, very quiet of late. So
this week especially, like the last few days, I've seen many posts about how his usual bloviating has kind of taken a break. Yeah, I mean, I get ads when I watch it because it's just bundled on my cable service. If I didn't want to get ads, I'd have to actually buy a dedicated subscription.
The other thing is, and Gary, you might know, but I mean, I know you're the representative American, so to speak. But on the Disney one, you see somebody on the left there, the Raven on Twitter, will say, "Look how good Doctor Who's doing. It's in 8th place overall." You've seen these, people are posting stuff like that, saying, "Look how amazing Doctor Who's doing on Disney." And then somebody on the right said, "Hold on a minute. It's the only new Disney show that's out right now. Sorry, but this is not the great news everyone thinks it is. The rest of the top 10 are all older non-Disney shows. An example, How I Met Your Mother, great show, ended 10 years ago. Modern Family ended 4 years ago. So basically, is it so amazing that Doctor Who's in the top 10 as the only new show?
I've seen a lot of people talk about X-Men 97. They keep saying, oh, it's absolutely, oh, you know, it beat X-Men 97. Now, I'm hearing good things about X-Men 97, but they've already announced, and there's figures to back it up, that got worse ratings than She-Hulk. So,
those ratings are dead for X-Men 97.
Yeah. So the fact that they're boasting about beating X-Men 97 is a massive cope, really.
Do you know what it is for me as well, John, and all of us here and the audience as well, people listen, is that like you have whatever opinion you like. If you loved Boom and you genuinely think it's the best Doctor Who episode you've ever seen, I mean, I'd say you need to watch more. But if you've seen them all and you think it's the best story you've ever seen, then fair play to you. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it, and I'm happy for you. I wish I felt the same. I genuinely do. But the thing is, when people try and argue their point about, you know, we come here and we have our say of how we felt about an episode. If you have to argue so badly to say how good something is, it's like, well, let the quality of it speak for itself. And if you're not going to talk about the quality, then the only thing we've got to work on is the figures. And these figures are absolutely horrendous. When you're getting beaten. Sorry, mate, go on, yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I was just going to add to your point. The thing is, Sean, for example, I got a few people criticizing one of my streams this week, which was just about the ratings. And they said, it's not about the ratings. Yeah, why are you going on about the ratings? Now, look, everybody's allowed to ask a question. I will give them an answer. And I know I could bring Rachael in here. You know, if Rachael was working in the West End, the theatre has to fill, doesn't it, Rachael? You can't just say, oh, I think it's a quality play, but nobody's watching. I mean, of course the ratings are important, aren't they, nowadays?
Oh, they're really important. You have to be, well, particularly in the West End, for something like Frozen that spends a lot of money. I know it's a Disney show, but they spent an awful lot of money on that show. I've seen it. And you have to fill it out, because it costs money to run each day. You've got costumes, obviously fast costume changes in that. You've got set that moves across, all sorts of things. You've got to fill out the seats, and that all goes towards the funding and the running of the show and the paying and the wages, all sorts of things. You really have to fill it out.
Yeah.
You've got to make profit.
And there was a show recently, you know, classic, a West End show recently, wasn't filling the theatre. It was a big theatre right in Leicester Square. And they closed. It was the one where she comes outside. Remember the actress? Oh God,
was it Sheridan Smith?
That's it. Yeah.
Have they closed it now?
I think it's still got a few shows to run, but it's going.
Yeah. Right. Well, they've just closed Bonnie and Clyde, which was on tour. They just suddenly stopped the tour, and it wasn't making money or something. I don't know what was going on, but they just randomly stopped it mid-tour. It was supposed to go on for a year.
Well, people will speak with their wallets, won't they? I mean, us Brits most of all. I'm sure the Americans are the same.
If streaming's the future, then you do need ratings, for God's sake. So I'll just show you the breakdown, because it's interesting to do it different ways. Sorry, Gary, I'll put it up and keep talking, but I'll show you the breakdown of the Star Beast to the Devil's Cord, and you can see with the green, the yellow, the orange, and the pink there, the breakdown that there's the overnights in green. Now, obviously, up to the church on Ruby Road, you've got a classic Northern Hemisphere British winter. I will say that, of course, and most people are indoors, so maybe that accounts for a bit. Mm-hmm. However, Space Babies and Devil's Cord is still getting much lower than something like Legend of the Sea Devils, for example, which was on in May too. Then you've got the catch-ups in yellow. And if you look at the catch-ups for Space Babies and Devil's Cord aren't as big as even the specials. That's got nothing to do with winter, summer, or anything. That's just, can anyone be bothered to catch up?
What does platform mean?
That's if you're on the tablet, are you on, you know, it's the fiddle figure, you know, the dodgy figure that the same person watches something 20 times. And then you've got the 28 days, which obviously we don't have. I actually think, looking at the green and looking at the yellow, overnight plus catch up, this is not promising at all. Not at all.
You look at the giggle, and whether you take like one color at a time and analyze it, clearly if you look at the catch up is falling consistently, except there's a bump for Church on Ruby Road, which I attribute to the curiosity factor, like Jodie's first episode, which was her highest, and then it fell continuously for 3 years after, because people just want to see, oh, it's a new doctor, I'll take a look. So that's kind of an anomaly. But you remove that, and the catch-ups are falling. The 28 days, though, I'm surprised, like the Giggle, which was Tennant's last episode, and they said, oh, we're going to get a new doctor, had such a low, like 28 days, and the 28 days on Church of Ruby Road was even worse.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't see how this look. You know, but fandom, as I showed in my State of Decay photograph, there's people who surround you, there's people who attack you for having an opinion. Look, the point is we're all allowed an opinion, but the truth is, let's look at this. This can't be where RTD, Bad Wolf, and Disney wanted to be today. No. Let's be honest with us. The country is, I can only speak for Britain, it's not caught on fire in the media. The press aren't talking about it. People in the streets aren't talking about it. It's
Except
kind of
Radio
just
Times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. So I think that's the worry as well. I mean, the word of mouth job, the recommendation job.
Well, bear in mind that most of these episodes were written and produced in 2022. When the kind of mind virus was still had full grip on everybody. And now nobody has any patience or tolerance anymore for a lot of this agenda stuff, woke stuff. It's still there, but nobody has any time for it anymore. So I think that had all of this come out 2 years ago, I think that it would have gotten a much more tolerant reception than it's getting now.
Can it be sorry, I'll put this up and keep talking, John. Compare those 3 episodes to Jodie Whittaker's last season, and really all the critics, has RTD saved it? Look at that. There's your thing. Has he saved it?
No,
am I reading into this too much?
It's just further decline, isn't it? And I've said before, RTD has come in and he's putting all of his messaging into the show, and he's doing it his way. He's a few years behind the curve because people have got to a point now where they are getting sick and tired of it, and people are turning off. It is becoming effectively the program people watch while they cook a meal and then switch over to the program they want to watch. That's sadly where it's getting to, and it's just going to keep dropping, isn't it? Because they were billing up Boone to be this great episode. They were saying, oh, this is a cracker. Moffat's back. He's back. And Shooty does his best work. Well, that's gone now, and the ratings have dropped. So you've now got this episode, as Gary was saying earlier, that on the cover of Doctor Who magazine doesn't look like a Doctor Who episode from that cover.
No.
You're not going to be interested in it, are you?
Well, the other thing is,
I'm sorry, Brendan. I've got to call out Michael Nemo in the chat for one of the funniest comments I think I've read in many a moon, where he says, I heard they ran the Devil's Court on a plane recently, and it was so bad people were walking out. Thank you, Michael. I'm crying because I'm laughing so hard.
No parachutes, I take it. It just ran straight out.
Yeah.
It's a joke as old as the hills, but yeah, that's all right.
I mean, do you want turbulence here, or do you want to watch that?
I think like Gary and John was saying, and I think personally I can only speak for myself. And you have what message you want. I'm not bothered. I can't bother getting into politics. But for me, it's look, if I have lost all patience for Doctor Who that is this bad, it's lost I've lost that ability and that want to give it the benefit of the doubt. And I'm just like, look, I don't have it. I've said it a couple of times to Brendan in chats and privately that I don't know. Like this channel is genuinely the only reason I'm continuing to watch, because I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's saddening, and it's when people try and hold up Boom, we'll get to that. We'll
Yeah.
get to it, but you just think what I
The-
don't know what you're watching. Like I
And
don't
what
know.
and Sean, what it's telling to me, what it's telling all the other channels, ITV, all the other counter programmers, is that this show is vulnerable. That whatever they put up
Yeah.
against it
Mm.
is probably going to do well. It doesn't need the whole international
And
thing
Gary,
like a Eurovision or whatever. But whatever they decide to put up against it, I mean, ITV News was
but
doing
Gary,
better
but
in the
Gary,
ratings.
on the night of the Eurovision, ITV always waves the white flag. They always do, because it is the night that BBC wins. But as you know, it didn't happen this time. The normally the Eurovision is the banker for the BBC, and so putting Doctor Who in front of it, which should be quality with all that marketing, should have been a home run, and it didn't
Well, and
work.
let's remember a few months ago that reboot of Gladiators got almost 9 million viewers
Yes.
in the exact same Saturday slot.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what does that tell you?
It
Was
tells
the
you that.
weather good or was the weather bad?
Well, exactly, but their costumes are good. That's maybe it. But Melanie West. Well, there were two things I wanted to mention. I think it was Mr. Wick was kind of linking with Sean's point, which is, whether you have hope with it, why do people still watch it? And when you look at those 5-minute breakdowns, it looks as though you've still got Doctor Who fans who are willing it on, as I am. I tune into Boom, I'll stick there, and I'm thinking, but I'm tuning out even though I'm sat in the chair, as a lot of people did with 10 minutes to go. With Space Babies, I tuned out earlier. Devil's Cord, I don't think I was in tune with it at all. But basically, I think Doctor Who fans will tune in on Saturday and they'll give it another go if there's promise there. And I think almost RTD is all that he's got left as a hope, actually. He's lost the continuity, but he's hoping that these Doctor Who fans are loyal enough to just give it another go, but then tune out again. Melanie Weston Investigates, so has a different point, which is the stuff that RTD and Shooty said before the launch just kill the audience that play the blinder. When you've been on tour, when you've done any shows, Rachel, were you told by your directors and the production team, if the press are interviewing you, to slag off anybody who might go and watch, to slag off anybody who might not like the
No.
production?
No,
Anything like that?
absolutely not. We were not allowed to do that. No,
Isn't
we
it
had
interesting?
certain talking points, and
I mean, just
yeah.
let's take it out of the. I mean, sorry, Rachel, you make a
That's
good point because you've been in that industry, and I've interrupted you again. I do apologize.
That's okay.
Let's take it out of that medium of that filmmaking or that TV making. Let's put it into other people's professions that no doubt some of us are in. And we won't name them or anything like that, but if you're a teacher, like Brendan said, or you do what I do, or you do what John does, or you do what Gary does, or you do what Rachel does. We all have jobs. And if we were going out and doing our jobs and talking to our potential customers or clients or residents, whatever you work with, and you were coming out with this, are you happy with your service today? Are you happy with the service we provided? No, you're not happy with it. Right. Well, I think you're wrong. You are this, you are that, you are the other. I'm disgusted. Why don't never use our service again? Your service is not going to last long, because what do they reckon that people say? Good word of mouth, you'll go out and tell 1 or 2 people about a restaurant. Bad word of mouth, you'll tell 10 people. And it's that kind of thing of, oh no, I mean, good word of mouth's absolutely brilliant, and
Remember,
Doctor Who doesn't have it.
On my saloon on Tuesday, please tune in, people. I looked at the LA Times and I looked at the Time magazine article. I always look at evidence for those who like to criticize. I always look at evidence and use evidence. Rachel does too on her channel, don't you?
100%.
Yeah, we use evidence. We use the evidence, if you want, back at the people who are so pious.
And yet they still tell us.
I know. Hello, there's the evidence. But the evidence I wanted to talk about was that RTD was saying, Sean, that it's great to polarize the fans. He thought that was healthy. I kind of half get his point, which is that means everybody's
with
engaged
good
in the debate.
storytelling. Yes, I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
The guy has written some absolutely marvelous series in Doctor Who and Torchwood. I mean, this is the same guy who wrote Torchwood: Children of Earth. That is dark. It's divisive. You don't quite know. Does Captain Jack go too far? Anyway, everyone who hasn't seen it, Peter Capaldi is awesome in it, and it's just you think, right, you can write something like that. I just don't understand how you could fall so far.
you think Sean is absolutely bang on with what he said there, and I would also say about there seems to be a modern idea with marketing to go right. Regardless of the quality of the show, if we just hammer it with marketing, we'll get all these viewers. That just doesn't happen. I mean, take it back to when Matt Smith was a Doctor. Arguably, it was the most popular it's been across the world at that time.
Yeah.
And that wasn't because they were pushing the marketing heavy. That's because word of mouth spread. It went on Netflix in the US and people were interested in it. That's why it became so popular. Now they're doing it a different way and they're failing completely.
Well, let's take a look at this.
I just want to say, Brendan,
just- Gary,
go
just
ahead.
so I can just remind the viewers where we're heading in a few minutes, just so that because people, the ratings can be a Marmite issue, I know, for people, and they've seen 10,000 streams this week on it. So in a few moments, we're going to anticipate and preview 73 yards. So if you just hold on for that for a second. Go on, Gary.
No, I was just going to say, lastly, that to be honest with you, I wasn't planning on watching Boom. But I went outside on Saturday to kind of touch grass, and there were so many people out on all the lawns in my neighborhood. I literally couldn't find any open grass areas to touch. So I just came back inside and watched it.
Oh, those puppets really enjoy touching grass.
They do. They're always out there. I was going to make one more point about the ratings, because I only wanted to talk about anything updated. RTD has set his stall out saying he's aiming for the younger generation. Well, as you can see there, they've got a Disney streaming platform where only 5% of Gen Zers actually even use Disney. Not a good start. Then you take a look at these figures. If I just kind of pull this out again, the Barb figures in Britain that 16 to 34-year-olds, 640,000 watch Doctor Who. All right, that was the Space Babies one. This is the 16 to 34-year-olds. So again, that's not looking too hot. They're not watching TV. You then look at, and I have used this slide before, but just to kind of make the point, about the average between Space Babies and Devil's Card is 6% of 4 to 15-year-olds watched it, and 14% of 16 to 34-year-olds. In other words, 20%, that was their audience share. 80% were those 35 and over. So they've pitched their tent in the wrong direction completely.
Well, because I mean, am I missing something? Like I know, like the world's moved on since I was, a teenager or a kid watching Doctor Who, right, or watching television with the family. And I get now that people will probably have a screen or a phone or a laptop or a TV in their room that can watch what they want. Well, within reason, if they're in that age. But am I missing something in that? If you make kids TV that's good enough that the parents can watch it, the same with films, then you get more chance. Because how are you going to measure the age of people watching it? Because the kids don't own the TV or the house. I don't understand. And you shouldn't patronize. It's like in Mrs. Doubtfire, there's a great line from Robin Williams, and he says something like, "The little people, you don't patronize them. You've got to educate them. You've got to help them. There's some. If they wanted to go for this generation, sorry, much my last point, honestly. If they wanted to go for this generation, and I'm not making a political point, if they wanted to get this generation, there's so much that they could say to this generation without being preachy. You might not be able to afford a house. You might not, the services are stretched, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot they could say, but do it on an alien world where the young people are getting left behind. Actually use a bit of nous and a bit of, intelligence. But it's not there, so I don't know why I'm bothering them more.
No, I mean, this is a media text. Doctor Who's a media text. I teach literature. I'm sorry, but the kids are doing much more high-level texts than Space Babies and Devil's Card. There was no challenge in that. He thought there was entertainment value. Now, that's a moot point. We can all discuss what was the entertainment there. But it wasn't high quality. It wasn't challenging. Science fiction tends to entertain, and also it pitches it higher than the age group that you seem to be aiming at. I think he missed it completely. Anyway,
where's the audience appreciation figures? That's the one figure I'm really interested in, and they have not
yet. Not yet. They will do. So let's be goody, the good old Doctor Who fans. 73 yards. Here we go. Tomorrow. Now, the Radio Times has been interesting because it's been up and down on its gold star ratings. Now, it gives this one 4 stars, and it has been lower with the ones we've seen previously. So this is interesting.
Oh, God.
Well, first of all, what are you expecting? Because the readout is stuff like Doctor and Ruby may have unleashed something terrible by breaking a circle of charms, infused with Welsh folk horror, this drama. When Ruby struggles to open the TARDIS door, she then sees a mysterious woman standing by it and is seen asking the Doctor, "Where's the Doctor?" Perhaps most ominously, Ruby says that there's a woman following her, but who is she and what does she want? And I think they've given, as you know, they've done too many clips this week again. I saw another clip that was released tonight. And basically, RTD says that the 73 yards, he had to measure it because it was a dramatic point, and it seems to be the 73 yards between her and the woman all the time. Something like that. What are you expecting? Do you think we're going to get back to form?
Probably not.
You know, the
Sorry,
problem
John.
is when it. No, sorry. I don't think so. I'm genuinely, if if Radio Times have rated this lower, it's every time they say how good something's going to be, I push my expectations in another completely in a different
They
direction.
did say Space
Completely.
Babies would be lower, and they did have Devil's Card lower. They did.
Well, they've got oh no, I thought it said doesn't matter. Ignore me.
I don't think we'll see anything lower for the rest of this series than a 4-star review on Radio Times, because they've got to get interest in these episodes up. So I think that I mean, this is the one supposedly that's the Dr. White episode.
Yep.
Interesting. I find it interesting that supposedly the best episode so far this season, and as Russell says, the best thing he's ever written, is the one that Shudy's in the least. I find that a little bit of interesting correlation there. 73 yards, I think is kind of how far I'd like to be from my television on Saturday, but I'll probably have to end up watching it anyway.
With all this money, couldn't they get rid of Jodie's TARDIS? I don't like the black and the white writing. I know it's a daft little thing, but with all this money, you couldn't get a new TARDIS because you faffed about with the inside enough. But I don't. Is anybody else? Because am I all right to?
Yeah, I don't like it.
I think Ruby Sunday. I think Millie Gibson, who I do think I think she's been given very little to work with, and I've found her character frankly boring so far. Well, I hope it does all right.
But this is why we're saying this one is the one. I mean, last one seems to be the tester for Shooty. Moot point. But this one, I mean, this trailer, for example, if I just showed you it, we walked into this circle of charms and little toy things up on the cliff.
What's he wearing?
Yeah, it looks like a fisherman.
Up on the cliff tops. What is this?
The fisherman's lunch.
Yeah. Did you break it, Doctor? She's looking.
Is that Sean Phillips?
Yes, Dame
yeah,
Sean
she's
Phillips,
always good.
Yeah.
I like Sean Phillips.
What have you done to him? There's Sean Phillips on the right there, who plays a mysterious figure, we're told. And then this land says the Sean Phillips character. This land is a powerful place. And there's the lady in the distance by the lamppost. And the lamppost in one of my trailer episodes, I thought that it was flickering on and off, and I almost thought it was a TARDIS, didn't I? But it may not be. It may just be.
Ruby speaking for all of us when she asks, "What have you done to him?"
Yeah, well, yes. What have you done to him? But isn't this Doctor Who back to form, though? Dame Sean Phillips. I mean, that's a catch.
Well, it doesn't mean she can save it, though, does it? I mean, Jonathan Groff's a hell of an actor. He's coming in.
Sean, yeah, but Sean, let's be honest. We were talking about talk of the world. You know, one slated thin and people are out. Obviously, the reviews haven't come in. She just took the role, but she gets the vibe. I mean, Sean Phillips can pick her roles. I mean, God, how many? Surely Rachel, she can pick her roles, can't she?
Yeah, she could. Certainly with her like caliber, she's definitely could. She's a 2%er.
Maybe I'm just cynical.
More choice.
Maybe I'm just cynical.
But then, whether or not the writing for her is good enough for her caliber, we will see. She can only make do with what she's got.
Yeah, and as Archer Collins says, as I was going to say, but thanks, Shan Phillips. So another I Claudia star makes it into Doctor Who. Shame she made it too late for a decent
yeah.
show. It is a damn shame when you see the cast list over the years for Doctor Who. It has really pulled them in, and it seems to be for some actors they go, do you know what? I've got a stellar career. I wouldn't mind a tick box just to say I was in Doctor Who, maybe for the grandkids or something, but. I feel terrible, really, that there might be in something that might be getting pilloried. I'm trying, Sean, not to be cynical before I've seen it. That's the only thing. I'm trying
Well,
to.
I'm just. I mean, this is what since 2017. This is like however many years, 6-7 years of really poor television, whether you want to call it Doctor Who or not. This new run I don't consider Doctor Who really, and and I'm trying. I've done my best. I really have done my best to try and see the positives. And now I'm just like I'm finished with it. I'm
I
like
know,
I'm
but Sean,
absolutely like.
you
But
understand.
it's,
You
who is
understand, Sean,
yeah.
that in my preview, I'm going to always try and make sure that's where I will probably sit on the fence a bit more until I see the evidence, because otherwise I fall into the trap of some people will be saying, well, you've actually judged. I don't want to be called somebody who's prejudged something before I've seen it. I can see the tea leaves. I can work things out. RTD's pleased with it, etc., etc. Who was talking about the outfit? I mean, the outfits are concerning me because look, I know we're in 2024. I know people are different. I mean, Colin Baker, for God's sake, as Rachel will say, I mean, what was that outfit? But
Yeah.
I don't really, I'm just don't understand in which shape or form this is feeling doctorish. That's all. I feel as though they're undermining Shooty all the time with dressing him up like this.
I think they just need, you know what? I honestly just think they need to bring back the talking frog. I think that would be ratings gold.
Yeah. Do you know? Do you know what? The 3 episodes I've seen, I have not seen anything of the Doctor in any of those performances. Nothing. It just sounds. I've heard people talk about it before. It might have actually been on this channel where they said it. He actually acts more like a companion in the TARDIS than the Doctor, and I'd agree with that. The outfits, I think it is a major mistake not giving him a distinct costume. And for this episode, I just think Boom failed. People are going to be like, well, they were bigging that one up. I don't know if I can be bothered with this one. It could be decent, but my view is the damage is already done. This is episode 4 of 8 episodes.
Halfway.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and the other thing I was going to say was, am I correct? This is meant to be a Doctor Light episode.
It is.
Yeah. Why on earth are we having a Doctor Light episode with 8 episodes? What's the decision making for that? If you can't manage 8 episodes with the Doctor in it, then that's just baffling.
Well, that's correct. But also, I'm trying to get into. It's very hard to get into RTD's head. It's a shorter season, yes, John. So why are you doing this? Because they're not stretched as much. I don't know whether it's because they started also doing season 2 filming and they're doing it in blocks. I'm just thinking out there.
He probably wanted to have a Ruby showcase episode.
Yeah,
well,
and I think the woman who waits is actually going to be Verity Lambert from the grave saying, "What have you done to my show?"
That's funny.
I think, to answer your question, John, though, I also think that although it's a shorter season and why have we got a Dr. Light episode, we're showcasing Millie because she's either going to be killed or taken out of time very soon in season 1.
Yeah,
and so basically you need to
theory.
build her up before you get rid of her, before you bring her back, don't you?
But
Yeah.
the thing is, Sean's right though from what he said a few minutes ago. I just do not feel investment in her as a character at all. There's nothing so far that's made me think, what a good character. It's just, I'm not blaming her as an actress. I'm blaming the people that are directing her, the people that are writing the scripts for her, because there's nothing fleshy to work on.
Isn't that why, Rachel, it's important that halfway into the season she gets her showcase? Isn't that what I assume he's doing?
Well, I'm guessing that's what's going on. Because the companion showcase, so to speak, has been going on really since JNT time, hasn't it? And I don't have much of a problem with that. I would just say, though, I actually kind of disagree with you, John. I actually think she's a much more well-rounded actress and the character's more well-rounded than what we've got at the moment with Shooty.
Oh, I'm not talking to you again. That's
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine.
Frank, but I will
Brendan, we'll
say-
have to talk through
All
you,
right.
okay?
Yeah, okay then.
Stay back,
We've all
stay back.
proceedings have started. Frank,
Right, I'm going
I
off cam now.
I
That's
want to
it.
say to
Bye.
Frank, if I
See
can
you,
say
John.
to-
Bye.
if I can say to Frank, it's not Ruby who's clumsy in this case. The doctor stands on the Ring of Charms. I've just seen the clip. So basically, I know what you're saying.
Wait, so it's Doctor making a stupid mistake again?
Yeah.
Yes, in 2 episodes in a row, he stands on the landmine. Now he stands on a kind of magic circle thing.
Oh
So
my
therefore, is it
God.
really,
Do you know?
Saves it with tears.
Do you know what it is for me? Going back to what I was saying a couple minutes ago, because I don't want to come across as a complete whinge bag. For me, Brendan, and I appreciate, and I see, obviously, you've got to try and like bring it in and try to, oh, will this bring Peter back in this week? Will this bring Peter back in? I don't think the majority of people, regular people who kind of aren't heavily invested in Doctor Who, care. And you see that. I would argue, and that's a bit harsh, you could argue, but they are literally, I don't think anybody is now going, oh, who's in Doctor Who this week? Oh, I quite
No,
fancy
but-
this. I genuinely think it's got to a point where, genuinely, no one's fussed, no one's bothered. People are
No, I know, but
absolutely had enough.
I think we do have to make the difference, though. But when you see a trailer, right, just an average punter, they're not Doctor Who fans, right? This is where we have to discriminate. This is a Welsh folk horror. I mean, a horror story on Saturday night. I think that can sell because it doesn't look hocus pocus silly out there in some silly space station with little space babies and that. It's set on Earth. It looks as though it's modern. It's set in a pub. There's a football match on TV. It's got a top actress on and some recognizable actors in it. And it looks as though it's a bit more real. That could... You know what I mean? If people do it on a case-by-case basis, they might tap into this one.
I think I've just been fooled too many times. I don't know about you, Sean, but it's just I'm at that point with it now where I'm like, I'll review it, but I've got no interest because the guy that's bigging it up is the guy that's bigged up the last 3 episodes. So the skepticism alarm is ringing loudly for me at the moment. And you're right, Brendan. It would be a great Doctor Who story. You know, that's what we've always wanted from Doctor Who. And I hope it's really good. And I know, like Sean was saying a few minutes ago, that, you know, he doesn't want to sound negative. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, if it was a belter of a story, if this turned out to be absolutely brilliant, we would be on here praising it. We would do that. You know, it's just, it's been so bad for so many years. And yet they're just not bringing the right people in to fix the problem.
And I think that, I mean, I do think this might up it a bit. I have to hope. I am looking at the pictures and it just looks more real. And I think that gives it half a chance. And do you know what? The concern I'd have as a Doctor Who fan, taking one head off like those Wells of Gummidge and putting another one on, is it's the one with Doctor Who not in it. And so basically, if this is a really good one, we can now do Doctor Who possibly without him. But as people are saying in the thread, Doctor Who's too human, Doctor Who's too emotional, the bi-generation has wrecked him. And so basically there might be an issue with the Doctor character since the giggle. And now we've got to, you know, we can do nice, decent productions. It's just how do we get the Doctor in without being silly or too Americanized? And
do you know what it is?
I think go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Just what moment? Pick me anyone who's loved Shooty so far. Pick me one single moment where he has a moment where you go, oh, that's the Doctor, that's commanding, or that's taking charge of the situation. It's exactly the same as what they did to Whittaker. They gave her nothing to play with either. She never had one single solitary moment as the Doctor. Capaldi had it in his war speech when he's talking about, you know, we have to get back around the table again. You end up right where you should have been. Every Doctor, every single one, whether you love them or loathe them, every Doctor has had that moment, except Whittaker, and now Shooty hasn't had it. And when the Doctor's the weak point of your show, you're stuck.
The thing is, Sean, it's open to debate. For example, I can see your sentiment, although we're halfway through a season, so let's not be victim of too much prejudgment of what's been written. But I think some people out there may argue that in Boom there was a moment, because I remember being on a stream with Rachel and maybe I think John as well, where we were talking about one of the trailers where I thought it was Sutek because he said, we thought, I'll turn everything into dust. And it was
Yeah.
in Boom. And it was the Doctor angry. And, so part of me thinks, well, some might say that was so far a Doctor moment.
Well, it would have been. It'd have been if it was done by somebody with, and I'm not having to go at Shooty. I'm not, because I don't think he's given any tools to work with, and I think frankly he's been miscast because he was marvelous in Sex Education. And if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. There's an episode where he gets attacked because of how he's dressed, and it's a marvelous episode. He acts fantastically in that episode. He's emotional, he's angry, he goes through all these stages of dealing with what's happened to him. It's absolutely brilliant. So the kid, not the kid, the man can act, he can act, and yet for some reason they're content, as you say, Brendan, to dress him up, to have him going around, in a certain way, being very, very, very childish, and then when he tries to pull off a moment like that, where I'll turn this battlefield into dust, which under Smith, Capaldi, a Doctor would have been amazing, it just doesn't land. And you think, and it's a shame because the lad can act, he really, really can, and yet again, like Whittaker, you're giving them no opportunity to showcase their talent. So really, when I'm talking about, he can't act, it's a bit of a joke, really, but they're not giving him any opportunity to do it because they've neutered this Doctor so much to the point, like Whittaker, where you're kind of going, I don't buy you as the Doctor because you're not being written like the Doctor. And I don't know who it was who made the point that he acts more like a companion. I think
look what he's doing in this picture.
Yeah.
Well, he stood at, so let's
up at 10.
Well, I just really quickly, I just want to say that, I mean, it's clear to me now at this point that starting the season with such an absurd and infantile episode as Space Babies was a catastrophic mistake. It's kind of basically firing a gun up on a snowy mountainside that causes an avalanche, and so for new viewers or casual viewers, I mean, there was no reason for anyone to expect that the rest of the season wouldn't be more of the same. So, why bother coming back? I mean, the season should have started with a moody and atmospheric episode like this. Not this one necessarily, but something with the mood and the atmosphere that this one seems to have.
No, I agree. And the structuring of seasons under RTD and onwards has been run. And I think they've got Doctor Who run. This idea that you do a comedy one, then an offbeat one. No. Like I said, do a Hinchcliffe horror season. Do a this. Yeah. They've got Doctor Who completely run on this one. Anyway, I just want to go down the panel very quickly. In the thread, tell us, are you still tuned in for Saturday night or whenever you're going to watch? If you're going to watch, are you still committed to seeing 73 Yards? Is hope flickering in the background like that dodgy lamppost in the village? Are you going to be tuning in? I will be tuning in. And out of the 4 so far, this one has given a stronger flicker of hope than all of them. That's for me, because it's set on Earth, modern day. Therefore, less can surely go wrong with it. Tell me next week. John, where do you stand? I know your cynicism. I understand you're near the exit door, but 73 Yards, are you checking in or out?
I will watch it. I won't be watching it on iPlayer, and I won't be watching it on the Saturday evening. I'll catch up with it through the few days afterwards. But it's more for review purposes now. I never thought I would. Yeah, I never thought I would say it, but Doctor Who was always something for me. I mean, it's been a passion for me since the early 80s. And for me to go, I do not want to watch a Doctor Who, or I just feel about Doctor Who, it's upsetting for me because it's a special show. But
so, John, can I ask this question in a different way then, to be fair? Right. If you look at the ingredients of 73 Yards, we're stuck in a village. It looks as though we're going to have hocus pocus and this and the other. Some would argue, why aren't we giving this a chance? This sounds a bit like Image of the Fendal. This sounds like it's a version of Android Invasion. I mean, doesn't it have the ingredients that would normally grab you?
It has the ingredients, but the trouble with it is that how many episodes have we had since the 60th? Since RTD's been back? and for me, they've been a fail on every single one. So on the law of averages, I would say, sadly for me, it's going to be a fail in this episode. And even if I get through this episode and I go, you know what, fair play, it was an absolute belter. As Gary was saying earlier, the episode that follows it is going to make me think, right, we're back to normal RTD now, aren't we? So, that's where I am with it. You might get a gem every now and again, but you're not going to get regular decent episodes anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think consistency. I agree with you. The consistency element's gone out the window because they don't even have a tone for the series. Gary, where are you standing on anticipation and looking forward to this?
I honestly am, because what was it, Brendan? Before the season started, they came out with that little trailer, which was like 5-second blips from all the little kind of, not scenes, but what I'm talking about, where they had little kind of graphic blips, about all the episodes together. And this one was the only one that I thought looked interesting. It had the sign waving in the wind and all of that. I thought this was the one I was interested in.
And it's the one I've said very little about, I'll be honest with you. It's actually, it's got away with not much focus. I just wonder if to grab Sian Phillips, Rachel, and we'll come to Sean next after that, but to grab Sian Phillips, come on, she hasn't been given a it's my same argument about Anita Dobson, isn't it? They're not doing tiny roles, are they?
Oh God, no. No, they wouldn't, because they're the type of actresses that immediately who they are. I mean, I hadn't seen Anita Dobson, and I think for years, but as soon as she appeared on the screen, I knew who she was. But no, and they'll be paid a lot of money to do this, both of them. So
yeah,
Can you go back?
they are.
Can you just go back an image quickly? There, that is a powerful place. It could be Brian May, potentially.
Well, you see, that's the woman. That's the woman that's following her, isn't it? Oh, sorry, we're not talking. Sorry, no, we're not talking. No, I'm joking.
Lord, you're in there.
Yeah. I thought that was going to be Louise Jameson, because in the trailer that sounded like Louise Jameson. Leela, for those who are wondering who I'm talking about. But then she might not have got time off from Emmerdale to do that.
Yeah, I know.
I forgot she was in Emmerdale, so it would make sense to have someone else.
As a Doctor Who fan, does it sound as though it has the ingredients that you would normally like, Rachel?
I haven't actually seen too many of the press releases, and I've been kind of avoiding it. I've only really seen the preview that was set out last week. I mean, yes, I like mystery-esque type of things. Although I don't know, I'm not like enthused. I definitely will be watching it. And I just I'm a bit miffed that it's a situation where the Doctor's gotten himself into trouble again, and it's somebody else trying to get him out of it. It's essentially going to be, from what I can gather, what I was hoping Boom was going to be.
yeah.
But Boom wasn't obviously that. I know we'll do that later. I just don't know. I mean, it's not turn left, is it? So I don't know.
It's a
mystery.
Don't mention that episode alongside this filth.
So, Sean, Mr. the chairperson here is pulling you back a bit. No, no, right. Sean. Honestly, I know you're cynical, and that's allowed. It's allowed, Sean. But what I'm saying is, come on, like the same question I've asked the panel, really, which is, when you hear about this episode and what's in it and where it's set and everything, doesn't it have the normal ingredients for a good Doctor Who story, though, that you did like?
Frankly, if my short answer, I couldn't care less, but my long answer, which I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it in an analogy of a cake. So bear with me for a minute. So this is like having a cake that's baked by a renowned chef who's baked unbelievable cakes in the past. The ingredients are all there for something good, if not marvelous, but it's been so badly cooked, it's inedible. And when you've had a bad cake for 3 weeks in a row, and they say, oh, I'm going to make this fourth cake this week is going to blow your socks off. You go, I'm all right, thanks. I'm still swilling out the last cake you gave me, or whatever the hell that abomination was. So I don't quite fancy any more cake. And there's only so many weeks you can be given bad cake. And we all love cake.
Well,
when you're like, I'm done.
Well, as your present English teacher, I'll say that your analogy falls flat slightly because
You took
RTD.
out the oven too early.
I know, because RTD thinks he's giving you different cakes to eat every week, not the same one.
So they're all inedible. They're different, but they're inedible. They're all inedible.
It's the same
not
cake,
palatable.
but he's just put different icing on it.
He's adding
Yeah.
some kind of icing on it. I'll tell you that.
It's rock cake. Different types of rock
Instead
cake
of bad
made
instead of
without
bad
the
wolf,
malt.
we have bad cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Rock cake. Oh dear me.
Soggy bottom. Yeah.
Right, well, we've not had this item for a while, and if you're a Doctor Who fan, we want to talk Doctor Who, and you can hear the panel. A lot of people are going about the present iteration and what might be delivered tomorrow. So let's go back to 53 years ago. We call this Time Flash. That's the present showrunner in trouble with the boss. Sorry, that sound effect. Right, if you go back to, I mean, remember we were going to be if I had reversed the polarity, we would have been on Wednesday. So basically, episode 1 of the Demons played on May the 22nd, 1971. It's 53 years ago, folks. And what's interesting is one of our other panelists, Hugh, said, "Wouldn't you argue at a certain level that the 73 yards set in and plot could sound like the Demons, and the Demons scored so well." Memories, happy or not? Have you seen the Demons? I mean, the Demons, it was a great ensemble cast. The unit was there. You know, they go back every year. Those are still cast members, still plodding on. Katie Manning at DRAS recently was talking about it again. Of course they do. I mean, and it was the last 5-parter in Doctor Who, that last 5-parter. Gary, how many times have you seen this? Is it a go-to?
I don't think it's I don't think it's physically possible to have any bad memories when it comes to the Demons. I mean, people say that this is a quintessential Pertwee, and it is. It's the epitome of the unit family, which started in season 8. I think it's the quintessential Who story where it juxtaposes otherworldly occurrences in an ordinary setting. This is the epitome of that. And you have the Doctor kind of disputing science. Disputing, being the torchbearer for all things science, put in a situation where everything seems to be anti-science. I actually call this episode "What Unit Does on the Weekend," because everybody's dressed in casual clothes. They're sitting around watching a sports match, and they get called into this. It's just and to show you how much the Master had become integral into this kind of unit family setting. There's even a cliffhanger where the Master is in danger, and it's like how many other stories before that had actually had the villain be the one where we're worried about if something's going to happen to him during the cliffhanger. That was unprecedented.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Gary, before I come to Sean, this was also, it was the last 5-parter, but it was also the culmination of a whole season where the Master was in every story, the Mind of Evil, Terror of the Autons, the whole lot, which some could argue, good actor, good role, it was still new. Was that too much exposure? I don't know. Sean, where do you stand on the Demons? Are you an expert on it?
No, as I've just said in the chat, I don't know how I brab my way onto this because I've not seen it yet. I've got the pleasure. I'm going back. I've been doing it with the Rabbi from Another Planet, but I've been going back to look at, basically catch up with the old era. Oh, and it's marvelous. Like, I mean, yeah, there's some duffers in there because it's TV, but there's some absolutely outstanding. So I've not seen it yet, so I can't wait to catch up with it. So I'm going to give everybody a rest of my voice, and I'm just going to sit back and listen. But it looks, these pictures you're showing me now, I'm more intrigued. If you put these side by side with for
Yeah.
73 yards, whatever it's called, I'd be going, oh, I quite fancy that one. So this is what I mean.
Sean, I gotta say, Sean, I envy you being able to see this for the first time.
Well, it makes you even less to want to watch the new stuff when I've got every Dalek story to rewatch. I watched Remembrance of the Daleks a few months ago for the first time, and you go, if I've got this to go back to, and New Who, which I love the majority of, why would I want to go? Why would I want to tune in for this? That's where I am personally. So maybe that's why I'm like, you know what? I've got hundreds of stories to go back and watch. The DVDs are coming out, the remasters are coming out, the extras are coming out. People, you watch like the Remembrance of the Daleks behind the scenes, and all they're talking about is how proud they were to do it, all the joy of doing it, talking about how it was this culmination.
Sean,
it's
big
lovely.
question then. Sean, I understand you saying you haven't watched this, for example, but you've heard of it, yeah?
Oh God, yeah.
So the point is, big question. So why have you not got round to watching it by now if you've heard so much about it?
I'm ordering it right now because I like DVDs, but I'm ordering it now. So I'll
No, I'm just intrigued, as a Doctor Who fan, you hear, oh, you must watch so-and-so, or you must watch so-and-so.
Frankly, I've made no secret of it. I was the perfect age for newer Who. I'd never watched older Who. When I was born in the 90s, it wasn't on. So I grew up with what my dad watched, which was the original Star Trek series, because he watched those. Star Trek Next Generation. I grew up with proper, really, really good sci-fi. I grew up with proper stories where they used nuance, and Next Generation would never tell you where to sit, but would give you, like you try and do, Brennan, you wouldn't tell me where to sit, but they would give both sides of the argument and say, you made a decision, you're intelligent enough. So I grew up with that, and then New Who comes along just as Star Trek falls away. So I fell into it. So I really haven't gone back to watch a lot of the old stuff, but now new Doctor Who just isn't doing it at all. I'm going back now, and it's great.
It's interesting that the Archer, the Master, is an Anglican vicar. Did he have a hand in the Anglican soldiers from last week? I mean, but you know what? You can see a thread all over. It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, John, you must. Is this up your street? This one?
I adore this, and to give you an example of how much I love it, here in the UK, when we get into those winter evenings where it's lashing down with rain outside, you've got a storm going, this is always the one I go to put on, because the first scenes are a guy coming out of a pub with his dog in the rain, it's lashing down, and then he goes in, the dog runs into the graveyard, and then he gets a fright, and it starts from there, and it is just such a fantastic story. I never get tired of it.
Sold.
I highly recommend it to you. It is just perfect Doctor Who.
We were watching episode 1 last night, obviously in time for this again, just to refresh. And it sets it all up, doesn't it? I mean, the gargoyle there, his lights come on at the end of episode 1, and the Master's doing his Did you know what he was reciting when he was in the cavern? Because I looked up. Do you know, Gary?
Yep.
Go on then.
It was backwards. It was Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Yep.
Backwards.
Yep. In the days, Gary, when the BBC did have control over things and did have editorial policies for good or bad. Nowadays, I'd like a bit of that with RTD. But in those days, they said you cannot show an incantation even to the rhythm of the Lord's Prayer. So do Mary Had a Little Lamb backwards. And so the Master had to do that. Yeah. I didn't know that either. The shot of the exploding helicopter was unused footage from Russia with Love that they used.
Blowing up a helicopter, I think, was just a little bit outside the BBC's budget back in 1971.
And of course, it wasn't a real writer. It was two people. It was Barry Letts wrote more than is realized as the producer. I mean, we knock RTD for writing too much, but Barry Letts, he was either writing them, directed one or two, producing, and he did actually then lead others to say, I want you to really write it this way. I mean, Barry Letts was very powerful.
Can I just say as well, for a bit of trivia, in this story as well, they actually call BBC Three before BBC Three existed. It's when they're up there at the Mount, they are there doing a live broadcast for BBC Three, aren't they?
Yeah,
So
they are.
Great stuff.
It is. It's a bit like that one. You'd have to remind me which one it is. Is it Terror of the Zygons, where it's a female prime minister? It's the classic. It gets ahead of its time. Look at this now.
One thing really quickly with that graphic you just now had up, Brendan. Except for Inferno in Pertwee's first season, which was written by Don Hauptman, Robert Sloman and Barry Letts wrote every season finale of the Pertwee era.
Yeah, the Planet of the Spiders. Yeah. I mean, it just shows you the influence. So, I'm open to the influence of a producer. I'm open to these things. But remember, Barry Letts could not get away with everything. He had control of him. What I wanted to show you, by the way, because these time flashes it's nostalgia, isn't it? And the thread loves the quotes by the Brigadier. We'll come to them again. But look at this. Look at this. This takes us back. This is the Radio Times for that week when people did buy it. They had some serious heavy productions about Bismarck and stuff like that. Now, I'm showing you the Zoot Cat, Tom and Jerry and Ironside because this was Saturday night TV when you got the Demons Part 1.
Look at that. How far have we fallen?
Let me just apologize to anybody outside Britain, but I'll try to explain quickly. Grandstand was all our different sports, a lot of them live. You had racing, football, you had loads of stuff then on Grandstand. But then after that show finishes, you had this very distinctive music. Then you've got the Pink Panther cartoon. Absolutely. That takes me back to the 70s. Pink Panther before Doctor Who, if it wasn't Basil Brush. The news for only 5 minutes. Brilliant. And then you've got Doctor Who, The Demons Part 1. Then you've got Tom and Jerry, the Zoot Cat. Then you've got the Saturday Westerns. The Westerns were really in the early 70s, weren't they? The Two Ronnies. If you don't know the Two Ronnies outside the UK, two of our best comedy actors, and great variety in songs and comedy sketches. Then you've got A Man Called Ironside movie, the news, and international match of the day, England v Scotland. Now, who would like a bit of that?
Yeah, give
That's
me
worth your money.
I'll travel back, please.
Oh, it makes me feel kind of good inside because it's when you just stuck to BBC One. I was alive then, but I'd have been sent to bed before Doctor Who then. I never saw this live. But basically,
why didn't Doctor Who ever do a story called The Two Ronnies?
Oh, that's nicely done.
Get Kate O'Mara in and Joan Collins or whatever as the two Ronnies. That would have been great.
I mean, oh God, let me go in the right direction. The Zoot Cat. Tom and Jerry.
I've seen that. That episode's brilliant. Really good.
Yeah, he's trying to chat up that cat, and he has to.
Yeah, it's in that time, and I know parts of it are very outdated now, but it's in watching those old Tom and Jerry's that again my dad would put on when we were kids, and it's where the cats kind of speak like "You set my soul on fire," and they all speak like that and stuff like that. And it's absolutely brilliant. Oh, it's great, honestly. So absolutely brilliant.
So he sounds a bit. So he sounds a bit Shooty Gatwa. Basically, he's doing that kind of.
No. Like a deep voice.
Because Rachel normally tells me. In fact, I saw on one of your shows, Rachel, you were saying that Shooty's accent, the one he's doing, is 3 different ones, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, John, I've just remembered.
Oh, yeah, I am switched on.
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah, you are.
I thought I was switched off. Yeah.
So it's
3 different Scottish, multicultural, London English, and Rwandan.
Yes, because you were asked in your thread, I think, at one point by somebody saying the other Scottish actors who'd been Doctor Who had kept a consistent accent, and the argument seemed to be that Shooty's wasn't consistent, like Sylvester's was.
It's not consistent. Sylvester's was very consistent. Yes, you could understand it. He was using a more sort of like, I guess you could say, I don't know exactly what it's called. I'm sure a Scots man or woman will be able to tell me if there is one in the chat. It's more like an RP BBC standard Scottish that he used.
Was it like a Borders? Was it like a Borders accent? Like a Borders accent?
I feel like it was, but I wouldn't like to say. I'm not very good at the differentiating the Scottish accents. And then Paul McGann didn't use his Liverpool accent though. He stuck with RP or just like normal
Was made in America.
working
They wouldn't have
class.
understood a word, would they?
I suppose
anybody-
not.
No offense, sorry.
I saw in the thread, Rachel, you were telling people to watch the Four Candles sketch from the two Ronnies.
Yes.
But the other one is this one that Peter Harrington mentions. I like the Mastermind two Ronnies sketch.
Oh yeah, I like the Mastermind as well. I've started a completely different topic of conversation.
Phantom Raspberry Blower and the Worm Returns as well.
I love the
Sean,
one where they're at the phone booth, crossed lines, I think
Yes.
it's called. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we watch? I mean, are these sketches that you're talking about? Are they on YouTube?
Oh, they'll be on YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube. I'm sure Four Candles is definitely on YouTube.
Yeah.
It was voted the best Two Ronnies sketch, and it's the only one that's ever
Yeah.
come from a fan story.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah,
good.
That was great. What was I going to
So-
say? Oh, John, can I just bring up about accents whilst we're on it? John, you're like Londony way, aren't you? I'm not asking you to like reveal where you're, but you're London way, aren't you?
I'm
so
near it, yeah.
Yeah. So an American today, bless him, who I podcast with, messaged me and he said, "Oh, babes," because he's watching it, he's enjoying it, and fair play to you, Clayton, for enjoying it. He said, "Oh, babes," and I said, "We don't say babes in England. We don't say that." And he said, "Oh, it's a London thing, isn't it?" And I said,
No.
No, London people do not say babes. Can I just put that out there?
Yeah,
You know, that's just
100%.
some people might. but
I don't go
not-
to work every day and go and see my clients and going, "So, babes, so should we talk about the
No,
insurance?"
you're starting to sound Essex now. Yeah, this is where.
See, where I come from, babes would be lover.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
my trutter.
we're just mate or kidder or
Now,
whatever else.
Sean, sin bin
Yes.
you. This is Time Lashes. We've promised nostalgia, man. And look, anybody else got any lovely memories of Demons?
I just want to say this picture. How great does Roger Delgado look as the vicar? I mean, he sells that. He sells the vicar. He sells the master as the vicar. And when he puts those red robes on later, it's just beyond fantastic.
And another bit of trivia for you as well. John Levine Benton, John Levine, he basically said that in this episode he almost decapitated the production team while they were filming it, because there's a scene in the episode, in the story, with a helicopter, and he climbed in it with the pilot, and he decided to push the controls, which veered it forward. So the rotors almost took a load of people out.
Oh my gosh.
And he was telling me about that at a con a few years ago. So he said he got a complete bollocking for that from the production team. So you might not have had any other Doctor Who if he'd got his way.
It's hands down the best Brigadier story. It's probably the best story for Benton and Yates.
I mean, that final, the final.
Yeah, I'm trying not to do anything to spoil too much for Sean, because I want him to just go into this as kind of pristine as he can with not kind of knowing too much about it. But
I think what we need to do is we need to get Rachel and we need to get Sean to watch it. And
I can't remember if I've watched it, though. That's the difference. I can't remember. I feel like I have.
And we'll do a review
remember.
of it. We'll do a review of it, Brendan. You call it. Let's do it.
Sorry, but we're not talking right now, John. Okay?
Yeah.
What was the name of by the way? I am talking to John.
I was talking through Brendan.
It's just come out of it's just gone out my head. The name of that, we all talk about. Is it Damaris? She played the White Witch.
Yeah.
Damaris Heyman.
Oh,
yeah,
brilliant.
because there's something about Doctor Who, especially I'm a 70s fan, really. When you thought Stones of Blood, the actress there, Tom Baker adored her in a Stones of Blood. She played the professor. What was she called? Beatrix or something? But you have these.
Beatrix Lehman.
Thank you. You're doing this. You're doing my job here. Yeah. So they always pick, and I've just finished the Seeds of Doom, as I was saying last week, and they had an actress in that who I don't know what she was called, and again she had those eyes, and she painted. And she popped back. Do you know, Doctor Who always had these kind of eccentrics that
Yeah.
it kind of made
Good
it
character actors, yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, there've been several stories both in the classic series and the new series, which drew their inspiration in terms of mood and atmosphere directly from this story, but there has never been before or after a story exactly like this one.
No, I'd hate them to try and emulate it. You know that classic thing. Once something's been good in Doctor Who, people sometimes say it's got a touch of the demons, or we're going to try and no, don't.
And they make in a story Morris dancing more terrifying than it actually already is.
Although Jamie has he's got a terrible childhood story about it being forced to do it and getting
Yeah.
but
I share your pain, Jamie.
yeah.
Can the puppets tell us that story?
God knows what the Americans think, Gary, of this maypole dancing and everything. Does it look
I just
like
thought it was kind of a fun. I mean, when I first saw it, I thought, I don't know what they're doing, but it looks like a fun tradition. I like the fact with the bats where they're going
really
all
not
the bats and all that kind of. It's fine.
Yeah.
classic British societal issues?
It looks
I
a
know.
little bit it looks a little bit Weeping Angels. I don't know whether it's meant to, and obviously I know you probably can't answer that fully, but it looks a little bit Weeping Angels, you know, taking something that you might
Yes.
have seen on a church and making it, because that's where like Doctor Who excels, and you know, taking something mundane and making it, you know, terrifying, like, you know, like Midnight with not Midnight, sorry.
This
Sounds
stone
in Lab with
gargoyle.
Darkness.
Well, this stone gargoyle, though, Sean, we can actually see it move. That's what's
Ooh,
different.
cool.
with
Yeah.
the-
And Darren Bradley, hiya Darren. I've seen you on many other streams. Thanks for joining us. He stopped the night at Aldbourne, where they obviously made this Devil's End. I love that the village has embraced the story with novelty litter bins in the shape of a TARDIS and Dalek, as well as the Cloven Hoof pub side. Do you know what? I don't know if you were at Dwas the other day, and that's our tea break little item. There's 2 minutes. People have asked me to show it one more time. Katie Manning, of course, who's value for money. She's probably told every single story about the filming of this. So she now gives you update stories. But she was saying, Darren, that it's two brothers who own the two pubs in Aldbourne, and she was shooed out of one of the pubs, the pub where the Cloven Hoof is. So she had to go to the other one. They're anti-dogs, they're anti-this, they're anti-that. So isn't it interesting, Darren? I don't know what you thought, that because I've not been there yet. I don't know if any of our panel have, because if they are embracing, as I would think they should do, quite rightly. I mean, why would you kind of deny that this happened? But they're not all embracing it. And as Katie Manning said, the owner of one of the pubs is really not embracing it. I mean, she's Katie Manning, for God's sake. And she was kind of taken out the pub because she had a dog with her. So,
I think, and I heard this on Type 40, I think it's under new management now. And I think they are now embracing it. So whereas before, you're right, they were saying, right, no, we don't want this. We're fed up of being asked about Doctor Who. Now, these new owners, I think it's only recent, they're embracing everything about it. They're saying, come in, ask us what you want. So that's really good.
Well, on this channel, we are...
Sorry, I had a bit...
On this channel, we are trying to mix, especially because it will be midweek, a bit of nostalgia, a bit of classic, a bit of new Who, it'll catch somebody. So after discussing the Demons, and you can see two of our panel, well, one might have seen it, one definitely needs to see it and will do. But we're going to have our final words on Boom. That won't be long, so don't worry, everybody, because there's many streams. And if you didn't like Boom, But basically, just so we've kind of wrapped up where last weekend was before we've got to this weekend. But then you've got to hang around, because then all of the panel, including myself, have listed their favourite episode 3s from Classic Who. Now, think about that. Why episode 3? Because Boom was the 3rd episode in this series. And this, therefore, if RTD did it the way I wanted him to do it, which is Doctor Who stories are episodic, we'd have just had episode 3, which for me are the brilliant ones when the mood has been established, you've bought into the context, you've had maybe episode 1 when you only see the hand of the villain or the hand of the monster, you have a bit more reveal in episode 2, It all kicks off in episode 3. And that's the moment where we're going to talk about. So please tell us in the thread your favorite, and it's a challenging one. You have to really think about it. Your favorite episode 3s in Classic Who. Now, just so everybody can have a quick check and toilet break, we're going to just show you 2 minutes of Dwas in Birmingham recently, where you see Katie Manning, Caroline Ford, the Who puppets, Sylvester, Sophie, loads of blooming Daleks. And then when we're refreshed after 2 minutes, we'll have our final words on Boom. And then we're going to do our favorite bits about the best, I'll say it again without stuttering, our best part 3s. There you go. Can you see my little hidden figures there? We've got the Mummy.
Oh, looks
Watcher. You've got the lighthouse on the hill from a certain episode. You've got a silhouette. So we have got some tasty morsels ahead. Right, I'm going to race everybody. While some of you are indulging in some lovely nostalgia, watching what happened at Dwas if you didn't see it, we'll meet you all in 2 minutes. Don't go away. Yeah, for the kids.
I wanted to call my Dalek Derek as well. That's what so in the credit, I often called him Derek, and I thought it'd be quite funny if we actually called him Derek in the programme.
Exterminate!
How he gets his steps in.
There you go. You can't be a Doctor Who fan and not like meeting the guests and all the rest of it. You know, that's what it's all about, isn't it? So, yeah, nice little light in there. Hopefully you're all refreshed now. And, well, we've raced Rachel there, but we'll, we'll find everyone. So, obviously, I had my panel on Sunday to review Boom. I won't start with Gary because Gary was with us, but he might have reflected, of course. We've all had a moment to reflect. I've obviously texted you, John, but you haven't obviously been on our airways to actually discuss it. Maybe elsewhere, of course. Sean, of course, your viewpoint, and Rachel's. I've not heard them on here. And to be honest, as I always say, the sense sphere is not an echo chamber. The sense sphere wants debate. If I hear something, you know, like if people aren't agreeing, I like to explore why, because we're all in it to like Doctor Who. So why are we not agreeing on something? It's interesting, isn't it? So, John, your opinion of Boom. Boom, boom, boom.
Ouch.
That's the word.
Yeah, it was that bad for me. I mean, what adult lets a child wander into a minefield, for crying out loud? That's the first thing that came to me.
Nice.
Yeah. It's like, even if you're militaristic, surely you're going to have a safety checkpoint to stop people walking through or walking in if you think there's an enemy out there, but they let a girl go across a minefield. So that was part of it. 10 minutes in, with Shooty singing on a landmine, I was thinking, well, they really did lie to convince me to watch this as being one of the best things ever done. And then how many tears did I see the Doctor drip down his face throughout that episode? It
73.
was, yeah. Yeah. And it was just, if that's the best they've got, then that really does worry me.
Can you see, John, why I'm not feeding your lines? I'm trying to dug out. RTD was saying this is the story, this is the one that every Doctor Who fan, you are definitely a Doctor Who fan, is going to be talking about. Can you see what he thought was clever about it?
No, I can't. And I've got used now to his spin of just trying to make the most mundane story sound like it's the best thing ever. But I'm not going to knock him for that, because that's what their job is, isn't it? Is to promote their episodes. So it just didn't go anywhere for me, really. It didn't really. I wasn't engaged with it. Yes, I'd been out before, but I thought I'll give it a try. It just, I don't know. It kind of just plodded along for me. I think that's the best example I can give of how I feel with that episode.
I mean, we saw the figures, and it was when Britain's Got Talent started. But when did you start checking out of the episode, so to speak? I mean, you'll have been sat there. I know when it was for me. I can see what Stephen Moffat thought. It's an interesting idea to do. It's just I don't think it quite landed. When did you start just checking out of your engagement?
Really, if I'm being brutal, it was when Shooty came on the scene.
Really?
Yeah, it was literally as soon as he came out of the TARDIS, and I was like, oh, he's getting on my nerves already. And he was in the first two episodes. And I said it earlier, I've not seen anything yet that makes me think that's the Doctor with this actor and his performance so far. Now, he might be getting direction to go a certain way. It might be written for him to go a certain way, so he's got very little room to maneuver. But the way he's been speaking and he's been mouthing people off the last few weeks, it almost makes you think that he's almost been billed as the second coming of Jesus, because he's that good. And he's not. He's bang average. I find him very one note. The way he seems to deal with things is just to cry. And I think Rachel nailed it earlier. He just runs and literally puts his foot into it every single time. He stumbles into problems. I don't see this Doctor as a Doctor that would go, right, okay, I know they did a bit of a thing to get him out of it, but I don't see him as a Doctor like I've seen Doctors in the past of, right, he's in control of the situation, if that makes sense. And one interesting thing I'll finish on as well is when I finished it, because it took me two goes to finish this episode. What I found interesting today at lunch when I was watching the rest of it, I was thinking to myself, do you know what? I'm wondering how much more I would have liked it if Capaldi was there in this episode, or Matt Smith was there in this episode, because we've talked about it before, and I know lots of people have talked about it. Those actors could lift it, even if it was a bad script. They had a talent about them that could lift it a notch, and I just don't think he's capable of doing that. And then when Millie got shot, I was like, and it didn't make me think, oh no, what's going to happen now? Because straight away I thought, well, she's going to get out of it. They're going to do a solution to it. So it just, I don't know. It just feels like this was treading water, really, where the other two were underwater.
I mean, Rachel,
John, I want to ask John, what did you think about all that guff about the Doctor being a space-time event? That if something happens to him, he would take out half the planet like a nuclear bomb or something.
Unlike Gary, the incident just above, unlike that moment,
Exactly, Brendan. That is exactly it. You know, that is such. It is played perfectly. There are no tears. He's very stoic with it, and he has companions helping him to get out of that situation. I was bored for watching Shooty do his bit, and you know, I'm not alone in this. I'm sure that's why the viewing figures are going down. But there's just nothing. There's nothing that makes you think, "Oh, I can't wait to see him next week." You know,
So
it's a shame.
So I'm going to ask a big question here, Rachel, and it's because of your background, obviously. But if you heard the script, obviously, you watched it, you heard the script, you saw what they were, I assume, demanding of Shooty. Now, you've heard one point, and it's not just John saying this, but you know, Shooty's doctor's crying a lot. That would have been in the script, though, wouldn't it?
It's possible, but it could also be an acting choice as well. So yeah, it's hard to say. We won't know unless we actually get the script. But I feel like in this circumstance, it was more than likely an acting choice. And the reason why I say that is because this is going to get into acting speak now. If you'd like to hear it,
Go for it. Yeah, we can do it,
it's because they rooted him to the spot, right? Now, here's the thing. I know you want to ask about this anyway, so I might as well talk about it now. So they rooted him to the spot, which Moffat and RTD will never admit would be to control his energy.
Yeah.
He's quite eccentric. He's quite, I don't know if it's erratic. I don't know if I would say it's that, but definitely there's way too much energy coming from him. So they rooted it to the spot, made it a bottled episode, and just kept him in one place. Now they do that to actors. I've had it done to me back when I was in drama school, and they do that to hone in on your energy and make you think about what it is that you're saying, what you're doing, like what questions you're going to ask yourself in how to build your character and where you want to where you would like to take it. Now, I'm sure that's what's going on here. So Shooty obviously may have tried to do that, obviously, because he's probably not stupid. He probably knows this is what they're maybe getting at, so to speak. And what they're looking for here is the connection between the chest, the heart, the voice, the face, and the connection with the language. And in a lot of circumstances throughout this episode, his voice wasn't matching his face. His chest wasn't matching the level in his voice, and it was there was a major disconnect going on. And when you cry in fear, it is an actual flight response, and it's more common in women than it is in men. I would actually say it's more likely to be women that would cry in fear. And with a character like the Doctor, my question would be, would he actually cry in fear? And I don't think, even with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, I don't think the Doctor would. The Doctor is very much a fighter.
Yeah.
And even when he does lose control, he doesn't cry. You know, I mean, the crying when Ruby got shot, all right, I'll let that pass. You know, but the thing was, because he had already cried, it sort of had a sort of like, well, meh effect when Ruby got shot.
Rachel, can I ask you this? And you know, others as well. But Rachel first.
Yeah.
When a character, the actor, is in that moment on the landmine, in this case, you know, facing an existential moment, you hear actually from real experience, and actually, isn't it true that it's not the moment to do the obvious crying and panic stuff? It's normally the moment when people are stilled. It's normally afterwards people are traumatized. Afterwards people think, gosh, I was in that situation. So in a way, I think they were being too literal, and they were I don't know what you think, Rachel. I think crying and panicking, etc., wasn't quite realistic.
Yeah, you're right. There was a lot of monotone delivery in this episode compared to his other 2 episodes. I will say that. And he tried, and when he did try to do the anger, the panic, there was just a slight disconnect going on. It wasn't connecting. And that's because he was honed in on the spot. I think one thing that they got wrong about this episode is that they had Shooty, the doctor, stand on the landmine instead of Millie.
Yes.
It should have been Ruby standing on that landmine and the doctor working out how to get it out, how to get her out of it. But I think they just tried to challenge him. And it's like there's this bit where, and I think the Devil's Cord was moved to an earlier spot. So there was this bit at the sort of beginning of the episode where it's sort of like Ruby's like looking out and she can see all these planets, and this is the first time I truly didn't believe him. There was a very much a flat toned voiced sort of like, oh, Rubes, you've never seen another alien planet, whatever it was. I didn't believe that. That's the first time I didn't fully believe him. Now, that doesn't mean he's a bad actor. It just means that he's not connecting with the text.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Sean, I was going to bring you in. There's that. I mean, Verada see-throughs. This is on her Instagram. This is from the back, the amazing LED screening. But Sean, your thoughts on your final word on Boom?
Yeah, just to sum it up, I mean, exactly what John said. I watched the first 5 minutes of it and thought, oh, this is Doctor Who. And then the TARDIS landed and my heart sank and the doors opened and I thought, oh, here we go again. It had a very, I put afterwards, Boom would have been a half decent 11th Doctor episode, but it's missing one key thing, Matt Smith, as Louis said. It's not perfect, but if you take out the crying Doctor, the story and the other characters were quite interesting. But, this show now, for me, especially this episode, it's like panning for gold in a river of excrement. You might find a few nuggets to kind of hang on to, but you're wading through effluent. So there's nothing. It was just such a disappointment. If something's not that good, don't build it up this much. And like I think someone said earlier, if this is the best they've got, it came too early. It should have come later. This should have been like 5 or 6 or 7. Thinking, oh my God, could the Doctor actually, are we going to have some magic Doctor for the next series? Are they going to do this, regeneration? Keep a bit of the tension. To have it so early when we don't know Ruby, we don't know the Doctor. It was a strange choice for me, and it was a poor episode, really. And if people really think this is up there with Turn Left and Midnight, then I'm sorry, but I can't see where you're coming from, any way, shape, or form.
Wasn't it amazing, Sean, though, that they had a straight romance?
Well, it was an odd one, wasn't it? I mean, in terms of it was a very, very straight. If that relationship had been reversed, I think some people might have called it. You could argue it was a little bit controlling and a little bit manipulative. If the roles had been, well, it still is, but it just, I don't know. It wasn't. I'll try and be neutral. It wasn't. It didn't appear the most healthy of relationships, is all I'll say.
Did you pick up on the Doctor seemed to be kind of almost flirting, it seemed, with the hologram of the dad?
Well, he kisses the thing at the end, which I thought was bizarre, because it's someone's remains, but I won't think of that too deeply. I just thought, again, it was a very, very poor performance. And there was lines in there that I thought, my God, under Capaldi or Smith or Tennant or Eccleston, I'd love to have seen Eccleston do an episode like this. I thought that would have been marvelous, like the bit when he said about the Hoover drones go over the top and it hoovers up the smoke just in time for people to get shot. There was this is what I mean. RTD and Moffat, are they at the level they were before? Arguably, definitely not. But do they have the ability to? Yeah, I think they do. And this bit
Sean,
at the end.
I was going to ask you about this, Sean. So before I go to John, I was going to ask you about this. This is, I'm going to sound a bit cynical. We're all a bit cynical. So it's not just you and everybody else, but it's very Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Why was the kid dressed as Rey from Star Wars? And I don't watch Star Wars at all. I don't. I've seen the first 2 a couple of weeks ago. I'm not interested in it. It does nothing for me, and I'm a Star Trek original person, right? I've no interest whatsoever. But even me watching this was like, oh, they've clearly got a couple of costumes in the back, and again, how on earth did you get permission to bring your daughter along to an active
Yeah.
battlefield? And also, if this is just the hospital drones, where did all the fires come from? It just didn't make sense. The whole thing made no sense. It's like these episodes, they're like light, frothy entertainment. And you know, if you can turn your brain off and enjoy them, fine. But when you kick your thinking brain into gear and your logical brain into gear and think, right, because this felt like a hackneyed version of Midnight, hacked together with that one where they've got the half and Martha Jones comes back, you know, where they end up on that planet, and the Doctor's daughter. Sorry, I wasn't too hot on the Doctor daughter stuff, but I loved the stuff with the Hath and those aliens. You know, that bit with Martha. I loved that bit. It had echoes of that, but done far better there. And
I wanted to say, now, John, I know you've got a point you want to make anyway. Obviously, you are younger than me. You can hold that while I ask you this question as well, which is when you see that. Well, I have to get you out of my, when you look at that, I mean, look, I'm not one of those fans who went mad on slagging off Wild Blue Yonder and whether it matched the green screen. I wasn't actually. I didn't notice. However, on this one, the more you look at that photograph, the more I could have shown you those photographs of the chase, the Aztecs, all those shots at the beginning. Yeah. I can see that that's a studio, and why do they think this is so clever? Well, that expensive screen.
Well, the trouble you got now is it's the volume from Disney, isn't it? And I've had a problem with it on the Star Wars series that Disney have been using the volume because, we're back on Tatooine again because we want to use the sand dunes background again, and it's just a lazy way of them to get their stories out now. Whereas I said earlier, creative people in the past were brilliant at putting sets together that looked real. They looked really good. Planet of Evil, great example. I think for one of my little nitpicks that I've had for quite a while is I hate the fact that the Doctor knows where he is on every single planet he seems to land on. Can we know it's new things and enjoy it, and we keep getting that. But I was going to say, I know Gary messaged me yesterday and he made a very good point. I don't know if it came up in the episode because, I wasn't going that deep into it. But this is a Doctor that making his point about his new sonic screwdriver. Where was his sonic screwdriver for this episode?
They listened to me, John.
Yeah, they did.
You know how much I hate the
Can you talk through Brendan, please?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot we've fallen out.
You're right, Rachel.
Didn't Jinx destroy it or short it out?
I don't think she did.
I don't know, but then again, it shows yet again that not only is this Doctor stupid that he runs into landmines and stuff straight away, but he also seems to forget important items to take with him.
Yeah.
I mean,
that overhead shot was shocking of him running as well. The CGI there was absolutely dreadful.
Can I just, honestly, sorry, can I just ask Gary something as we come to you? Gary, when I asked everybody to watch the video commentary on Boom, because I find this is interesting because the villain of the 1970s for Who fans is Mary Whitehouse. They always say Mary Whitehouse. But can I now attest that the Mary Whitehouse of 2024 is RTD? Because RTD has said the sonic screwdriver is now a lethal weapon. That sounds like Mary Whitehouse is revived. And in this, Stephen Moffat wanted to go darker. He said there was a pushback from us being wimps. And he says, I just had her face down Ruby in the mud. And I was saying, you've gone soft, you lot. Do you know what? Is RTD and whoever's around him going soft, as Stephen Moffat has just said, and he's the Mary Whitehouse. He's killing the show by actually not wanting to scare kids.
Well, I mean, I'll take your metaphor in that I think that he's become the focal point for a lot of the criticism, the fan criticism. He's made himself the villain, like Mary Whitehouse was in the 70s or Michael Grade in the 80s. He's, through his own actions, set himself up. So, yeah, that's a good metaphor.
Yeah. Did you have any final thoughts, Gary, before we move on to our favorite
actually,
episode?
just a couple. First, I want to say that I was actually rooting for the mine
Yeah.
in this episode.
would've made
So
it
I
so
was
much
kind of
more interesting.
disappointed. I was disappointed about that.
I wanted a death drop.
Yeah, there you go. I thought that, and you know, Brendan, when you showed earlier that shot from Genesis,
Yeah, I know.
that just shows you how that whole scene worked, because they were in kind of a slate gray minefield, and the mine was really, really disguised to look like just another piece of rubble. So it makes sense that the Doctor would step on it. But here you have this gaping green flashing thing that's set right in the middle of the ground. It's like, how could anybody just accidentally step on something like that? That to me seemed
I think it was
a
invisible,
little
wasn't
bit.
it, at first before he stands on it? But I don't know whether that was added in later on, because he says to
Yeah.
Ruby, like, walk around me and mind your step. But if they're invisible, like, it made no sense whatsoever. Like, there was just none of it made sense.
Yeah. And I two more points. The first is that the whole, and you've shown a couple of shots here, Brendan, the whole kind of, happy, everybody be happy, let's watch the sunrise, and you get the little Anakin Skywalker wave. It just felt tonally weird to me, after all the darkness and death in the rest of the episode, to say, oh, everybody, let's wave and watch the sunrise. It didn't feel tonally like the natural conclusion of what we'd just seen. But I actually do want to take a second to say that, as my last point about Boom, I've actually figured out one big reason among many why both the reception and the ratings for this season have been so dismal, and that is because the story titles are so unintriguing and unimaginative. I mean, back in the day, we had these wonderfully intriguing story titles like Pyramids of Mars, or The Talons of Wang Chiang, or Carnival of Monsters, Four to Doomsday, Earthshock, that excited your curiosity and made you want to watch. And a lot of these titles, even the ones coming up, to me just seem kind of flat and lifeless in comparison. So going in reverse order, I think Boom had a much better title right there in the script. They should have called it, and I know that Melanie also had this in the Type 40 chat yesterday. They should have called it Kiss Kiss Boom Boom, which would be a callback to the Kiss Kiss Bang Bang associated with 60s Bond titles. And for The Devil's Cord, I think if they were so intent on leaning into the Jinx Monsoon stunt casting, they should have just called it I Dream of Jinxie. Would have been a better title for Devil's Cord. And I think a far better title for Space Babies would have been Poop Cloud, which would have kept people tuning in for the whole hour in order to see the cloud. Or, they could have done a riff on movie titles, like instead of the Stallone movie Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, they could have called it Stop or My Ship Will Poop. That would have been a better title maybe for that one.
Well, it would certainly hint at the comedy to come. I mean, honestly, that's the problem. Can you look at this, everybody, just before we move on? I'm dying to hear your favorite episode 3s. Thank you. Is it TARDIS Travels, episode 3 of Spearhead from Space? I just said, tell us why. Do you know what? So the writer in Doctor Who magazine says this. Now, I don't recognize this. This being a Stephen Moffat script, of course, the Hitchcockian suspense is also seasoned with a dash of romance and a shard of heartbreak, not to mention some fairly hefty philosophical ideas, all wrapped up in the former showrunner's trademark dazzling wordplay. Do you know what? I would rather you actually focus.
It's like
on
autocorrect where you switch what you've said for like a fancier word, doesn't it? And then they haven't read it.
Do you know what I think's happened is they've gone on iPlayer and they've accidentally watched Talons of Wang Chiang instead of Boom by accident and reviewed that story.
It was certainly
They've watched Blink, haven't they?
And this is it. This is, I have to say, this is the modern world. And I noticed this in teaching as well, that a younger teacher would say, in this lesson, I've done this, and this. And I'm thinking, you've done none of that. You've mentioned them, you haven't done them, and you haven't taught them. And this is people saying with drama, you've done Hitchcock, you've done romance. No. You've done a sampling of it. It's not made it romantic. It's just going, here's my tick list for each episode. Doctor Who, if you're going to do this, do a suspenseful 45 minutes. And I think focus on that one task. Trying to do all this is just too much. It's scattergram.
Yep.
It falls flat.
Do you know, they could have easily made this a two-parter.
Yeah.
Right. I can't think of the words. Made it a bit longer, and then when the Doctor is going to potentially explode, he either explodes, and then what happens next, or just leave it just before he explodes, that sort of thing.
And
why didn't they do that?
And
That's another thing that.
Why did he say? And Sean, you'll probably think the same as me. Why did he say at the end, "I might come back from time to time to see how you're doing"? Well, surely no one's going to be there, are they? This is a battlefield. Why would he want to come back to a battlefield? Am I being too literal on that?
I'd probably you're right though. It's again, when you engage your logic brain, it doesn't make any sense.
Well,
you know what you were saying, Rachel, about, just while I remember, you made a really good point about why they could have made it a two-parter. Why didn't the end with the Doctor's face going blue and you think he's going to explode? One thing that the original Rusty Davies era did, and even arguably the Moffat era, but RTD especially in that first run, what he was brilliant at, whether you liked his writing or not, he was brilliant at a cliffhanger ending. Look at when Rose and the Doctor reunite and he starts to regenerate, and no one had a clue that was coming. So, oh my God, what's happened? Or, the Titanic hits the side of the TARDIS or stuff like that. That's completely absent from this. These are like completely standalone, isolated episodes that feel completely out of order. And you just, Ruby's been with the Doctor 8 months, but she's still brand new. Or it's a mess.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Final word on Boom. 73 yards is on. Well, it's on at midnight if you so wish. Now, I'm gonna really be strict with the panel. So as we come to your favorite episode 3s, which I've got lined up, I want to ask you all this. So I'm going to throw you a curveball, because some would argue I'm just going classic Who. How unfair. So because Boom was the third story in this season, I just want to show you very quickly the third story in every season of New Who. Which one of those is your favorite out of them? And you can pick Boom if you want. Have a quick look, and I'll go round the panel, starting with John. So just have a quick look down. Unquiet Dead, School Reunion, Gridlock, Planet of Renewed, Victory, Black Spot.
It's Unquiet Dead for me.
Briefly tell us why, just quickly.
I just think it is a very, very good episode of, I think me and you have talked about it before, that it could have effectively been a Christmas episode, that episode 3. I do love Dickens in it as well. And I just think it's just a great romp. I think Eccleston's on full form in that story. And I still enjoy it to this day. I always go back and watch that one. I mean, it's a great episode.
Well, as I come to Gary, it's interesting. So far, 2 votes for School Reunion. Gary?
From this list, Orphan 55. Just kidding. Just kidding. School Reunion. Obviously, because, come on. For the reasons, I don't think I probably even need to say all the reasons why School Reunion is great.
And it was set in a school. And actually, I think it was the best David Tennant looked as well. absolutely. It was the best he looked. I mean, I have to say, teachers are scared of Ofsted investigations anyway. Never mind. You know, the Ofsted is going to be Sarah Jane Smith as well. But anyway, School Reunion's going down very, very well. I haven't made my mind up yet. Sean, what's yours?
But I'd see, it's tough now you mentioned School Reunion because it has one of my favourite Tennant moments in it, where he says he used to have so much compassion. I love that scene. But it's not that, and I'd already picked this before this list came up. It's Gridlock. So it's Series 3, Episode 3. Martha Jones really You know, she has a scene where she cries and it's really well earned. She's marvelous. You've just got to know her. I think she's one of my favorite companions. I think she's really underrated. And I think Freema Agyeman's fantastic. But for me, it's Gridlock. I loved Novice Hame. I loved they brought that back from New York. And I loved, you know, Ardal O'Hanlon is brilliant. And I just loved, I know there's a bit of CGI in there and it doesn't look great, but I can look past that because I love it. I love the world building, the face of war, the mysticism.
Were you okay with the Macra coming back?
Well, see, I've not seen it, so it doesn't mean much to me, see. So it didn't, I have not seen, so I'm watching it totally.
They'd
took
regressed
out
a
the
bit.
background. Yeah. I gathered they'd been in it before because, you know, when you watch New Who, you heard bits about, you know, it's part of the Tricksters Brigade or it's part of the pantheons of would-be gods and demigods. And you got the impression that, and I knew there was a lot more Doctor Who before, you know, the Autons and stuff like that. So you gathered, but I was able to watch it without that. So I'll be interested to see if I ever catch up with that, which I no doubt will. But I love Gridlock. It's great.
It is amazing so far. I'm not saying I'm not amazed as in a way. Lots of school reunion. Rachel, where would you go?
Well, it would have been between School Reunion and Gridlock, but I had to really, really think about it on consideration. It is Planet of the Ood. I
David
think
Mullen agrees with you.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Well, that probably just came in at the same time then. Planet of the Ood. Yes, because introductory to a brand new alien that is pretty docile but gets an infection and really just needs to be saved. It's nice to see that sort of difference in sort of running away from the aliens, the bad people really in this case are the humans. I quite like Planet of the Ood.
Planet of the Ood. And so it's just left to me to kind of make a fast decision looking at that list. Do you know what? After you go from Curse of Black Spot down, and I'm kind of already checking out, but School Reunion, yes, for all the reasons we've got there. I have to say it was well written by Toby Whitehouse. That moment with Sarah Jane coming back, you fell for K9 again. You fell for Sarah Jane. I think the moment between Sarah Jane and the Doctor was done well. The only bit I do question slightly is this kind of the companions fighting over him type thing.
That's why it's not my favorite. That's the thing that lets it down for me personally.
Yeah.
Okay. And Russell trying to retrofit that Sarah actually had romantic feelings for the Doctor.
I never got
was just beyond idiotic.
Yeah, I never got that.
So here we go. This is it. I mean, can you recognize all those figures and which episode 3s these are from?
This is great, Brandon, by the way. This is fantastic.
Well, you know, if I had a life, Jamie downstairs is thinking he hasn't got a life. He's very sad.
No, it's great.
So yeah, you've got well, you know, good old Watcher there, Hid Away, the horror of the Fan Rock Lighthouse. So you've got a few hints as where we're going to go, folks. So do join us. Tell us if we've got it completely wrong. Have we missed a blind? Have we had a blind spot with the best part 3s? Because I have to say, it was a hell of a task. I mean, these people have a life, and I was kind of demanding lists. So, anybody went for that one?
Me.
Go on, Gary.
Absolutely.
I have to say why.
In an amazing story, I think Caves and Edges on the episode 3 is the best episode. You have starting out with the Doctor menaced by the magma monster. You have the confrontation up there in the top left with Jack and the Doctor, where at one point the Doctor makes an offhand comment and Jack backhands him, which shows you that his mentality is like a trigger finger. We see how obsessed Jack is with Perry. You've got all the political machinations in the bottom left there between the president and Morgus and Crowd Timon. The president dies when he falls down the elevator shaft. And then something that you may not know what you're looking at the first time you see this story, but the Doctor actually starts regenerating in this episode. He doesn't wait until, I mean, he's basically been dying, him and Perry, since the first 2 minutes of the first episode. But when you get the effects of that, the kind of tunnel going down. At first you're going, wait a minute, what am I seeing? But then in the fourth episode, when the effects were there again, when you watch Caves of Androzani a second time, you'll say, oh, he's already starting to regenerate and he's physically holding it back. And of course, the amazing final line where he says, I owe it to my friend to try because I got her into this. So you see, I'm not going to let you stop me now.
Yeah,
as the ship.
brilliant.
That is an amazing cliffhanger.
Do you know how
So
like
this-
passionate you sound? Like you all sound about talking about these stories again. Another one I haven't seen, and I can't wait because you've
Oh,
again
you'll love
just
it.
told me.
You will
I
love
know.
it.
I'm so
Wow.
lucky. I'm so lucky. But this is what I mean about. It's a short point, Brendan. I promise. Is do you think anybody in 30 years or however long it's been is going to be going, oh my god, that scene in Boom? Oh no, it's not gonna. The quality's not there. But that's
We
I'm
talked-
done.
We
And the
talked
truth
about it
is-
before, haven't we? There's no rewatchability on a lot of these
No.
stories.
And
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I said about Boom in my previous review was I said, okay, clever idea to have him stood on the mine for the whole episode. But the point is, it was originally in Genesis a 6-parter where there was a whole story. The
Yeah.
story wasn't the landmine. And I think trying to just make the landmine the story, no, it's an event. And I think they missed something here. Caves of Androzani, I'm not going to repeat what Gary said because why do that? What I will say is there were so many different things to be looking at.
Yeah.
It's clever writing. I have to say, I don't know how people access this story, but I was sat there, very young teenager, and it was either on a Thursday or Friday night when they had these on. It was around 7 o'clock. And I remember you knew it was a regeneration story, and Peter Davison was getting better. His fifth Doctor, he had him sussed by the end. And it was just so disappointing to see this outstanding story. As a young teenager, I thought, this is adult. Oh my God, this is so gritty. The drug runners. And the fact that the Doctor had no control and that other planet, Androzani Major or something, he never went on it. And so basically the Doctor was completely out of it, really. The sexualization in the Doctor Who, I've challenged, as you know, under RTD. But I thought as a kid and now, the Sharaz Jek dynamic with Perry, whoa. I tell you what, the Doctor knew he had to stay there because this was dangerous sexual dynamics. And this was for kids. This was top-notch stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought the Sharaz Jek scenes, never mind how Graham Harper directed them, the dialogue and the brilliant performance. Well, I mean, I was at Dwas, as everybody knows, a few weeks ago, and Graham Harper was talking about picking that actor whose name's gone out of my head. I'm sad to say. Somebody will tell me. But honestly, he nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. And you could see Perry was going, this is disturbing. Yeah. This is worrying. We're trapped with this person and you're delicate, beautiful. Do you know what? This is Doctor Who for adults. And any kid watching thought, wait, I've got to raise my game.
Well, it's that bit.
Can you imagine if Robert Holmes had been given a chance to write more for the Fifth Doctor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that bit you're talking about, Brendan, about that whole how Sharaz Jek is, where he goes to Perry, you think I'm mad? And she's like scared, going, no. And he's, I am mad, and he does it so well. He just doesn't raise his voice with it. He says it calmly and it's really chilling. And it's just this story, you're right, Gary, it's great.
It's a good call, that one. So let's see if we can test the thread on the next one. So this one is one of yours, Rachel.
Oh.
The Aztecs.
The Aztecs. I really don't actually have a lot to say on it, believe it or not. The Aztecs. Overall, the actual episode, not the actual episode, but the actual arc of the whole entire Aztecs is one of my favorite stories. But this one specifically, The Bride of Sacrifice. I like the opening where Barbara is saving Ian in that contest, but I also like the fact that, and I find it really amusing, is that the Doctor is failing to notice that he's got an unrequited love going on.
Oh, and she's not called Martha.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like completely oblivious. He just thinks that she's an exceptionally intelligent woman, and she's like, oh yeah, doctor, love you, that whatever it is. And that's literally all I have to say about it.
That's all right. That's all right.
And
I mean,
I love the costumes as well, actually.
I must admit, and actually, you can see that set design I showed you in the bottom right. You can see they're just stood there, and it's the same backdrop there. Of course,
maybe Mrs. Flood will turn out to be Kamika from this story, the doctor's wife.
Maybe.
And
maybe.
what I love about this story as well, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is also the first time where the doctor sets out in the story about there are fixed points that you can't change them, you know, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, and actually they give Barbara, I mean, you know,
Barbara's brilliant in this.
And this is the thing, and if I heard Hugh on, Hugh will go big on Barbara, that the point is, in the 60s, we get this nonsense revisionism that the 60s and 70s were sexist with this, with that. Maybe there were in parts and all the rest of it. But can I just say, regarding Doctor Who, Barbara as a companion was given some great stuff to do. And the Aztecs, was that the fourth story? The fourth story? Six, sorry. But it was in the first season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She was given a fantastic part here. I know Caroline Ford, who was at Jurassic recently, she's got a different argument, of course. But no. Jacqueline was given brilliant. I mean, this was great for her, the Aztecs.
And it was powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, she was really
and she was a history teacher, wasn't she? So this is like, you know, she's living her own history, so to speak. It was, I mean, that was good stuff.
Great choice.
Yeah.
So where does Brendan go next? Right, okay then. I've got to remember who picked what, but see if I get two in the rod, don't tell me off. This is mine. Terror of the Zygons, Part 3. I can't. Do you know what? When I looked back at the list, I couldn't keep. I was going back to certain ones. The Terror of the Zygons just sends a freeze on. You know, there's something in me that goes, "Oh yes, I remember it was August. It was the end of August and school holidays." And then you start tuning back into Doctor Who for the next season, and the sound of the spaceship. Because in episode 3, you got more into the spaceship, and the sounds which you'd been given touches of. Sarah Jane was doing a Nancy Drew in episode 3. She was going through the shelves of the books. She was left alone in that very echoey castle. You knew that he was Trouble, the Duke, and she was left alone by the Doctor, wasn't she? And then, what's his name? I'm forgetting names now. You know, the bloke who, the Kyber, the
Kyber.
Kyber. He was there, and I thought, oh my God, she's in danger. Then she gets a torch, Nancy Drew, Scooby-Doo, the shelf moves, she goes into the Zygon spaceship down and it just had all that, and you had that brilliant Jeffrey Bergen music. And I think it was when it started taking off, because the reason why I like this as a part 3 is you'd already seen the Zygon hand, you'd seen the Zygon nurse at the end of episode 1. You had seen the Zygons, of course you had. But this is when, of course, you get to see them really kicking off. Well, I mean, episode 3 ends with the Doctor's trapped in the spaceship and they fly off. And UNIT can do nothing about it. So you get them all split up. You get some space action. Sarah Jane's investigating. And everybody's starting to reveal themselves by this episode 3. And the sounds inside that spaceship, I don't think have ever been beaten by any program, any story of Doctor Who, ever. It is so organic and clever. So that's mine.
Yeah, it's great.
Great.
It is great.
So where do we go next? It's like a Russian roulette, this, because I've got to kind of think who said what.
This is like greatest hits from Doctor Who so far.
It is, and it makes you feel good. And I hope the thread feels the same, because while we're worrying about 73 yards and boom, and where's the season? Look at this. Now
Peter is so right in the chat about the Zygon's whispering voice. Like, where will we go? Yeah.
Doctor. I mean,
sounded like the silence there.
Yeah. That's all you need as a kid is, Doctor, you're gonna die. I just now. I mean, who doesn't like episode 3 of The Deadly Assassin?
Yeah.
This isn't best part 3s. This is just Has Sean seen any of these? Let's find out. It's no stuff, man.
Sean, you're on this panel now to make a list, right?
Yeah,
I'm making a list, don't worry.
So
Yeah.
who wants to start off on this one?
It's me. I adore this story, but I really love episode 3 because they go into the Matrix.
Yep.
And I love the whole story of the Doctor inside the Matrix, Battle of Minds. He is on the run. He is being hunted. I love the chilling clown as he wipes the sand away. And and then you've got the samurai, with you've got that bit with the cutting of his scarf and the biplane coming down to get him and shoot at him. It is just a great episode of Doctor Who, and Tom is on full power
with that white kind of frilly pirate shirt.
Yeah, exactly. It's great, and it turns into a bit of an Action Man Tom episode.
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
it's more. He's not. You can see he's trying to outthink. He's trying to fight with his mind to beat, to just take out, who the villain is, the Master, but and who's in there hunting him. But I love the fact that in the Matrix he's on the run. He's having fist fights and he's doing all of that. But this was the Matrix before the Matrix film. Doctor Who did this first, and they did it so well.
Wasn't this clever though? I don't think the Matrix has ever been beaten since this story.
No.
I don't think it should have been really used as much as it has, because they've turned it into. I didn't like it. I mean, the argument is whether Robert Holmes or Eric Sayward did the Ultimate 4 one when it was, we're in Stoke, basically. I like this gritty version. Now, you see, RTD is trying to sell to Bad Wolf and Disney now, saying Doctor Who should have a bit of Western, a bit of romance, a bit of this. No. He's confusing what we see in episode 3 of Deadly Assassin, where basically in a science fiction story, the Matrix, you can make it look like a bit of a Western. It's a bit of it reminded me of some of the silent movies from Hollywood where you had the train track, because that's how episode 3 starts.
Yeah.
Stuck in the train track. It's like, whoa, it's a bit like when you tied people on the train track in the old silent movies, all that kind of stuff. And of course, it ended with the drowning that Mary Whitehouse went on about, which as a kid, I watched this. It had no effect on me at all. I was excited as hell. But this is when Doctor Who can do sci-fi and throw in a different genre. Do you know what? Star Trek has, I'm going to be nice and controversial. The Matrix in Doctor Who, Star Trek with the Next Generation and that like to have the hologram deck, don't they?
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
I prefer this. I prefer.
If you overuse it, which I think cumulatively Next Gen did, it becomes kind of a story crutch.
Yeah.
Let's do a Robin Hood episode.
Yeah.
Let's do this episode. Let's do that episode. Yeah, that kind of. I mean, I will say though, great choice, John. That I think that if you go outside beyond the narrative we've been talking about, that I think historically, this is probably the most historically significant episode 3, because that cliffhanger scene that you see right there basically ultimately would spell the end of the Hinchcliffe era.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without that scene and the controversy that it engendered with Mary Whitehouse, chances are he no doubt would have stayed for a fourth, at the very least, a fourth Tom season. So, there you go.
And Brendan, you're right on just about the ending to the episode. Yeah. I wasn't ever scared of that. In fact, the thing that scared me more was the clown, and it was also the driver of the train coming along with the goggles.
Yes.
Yeah. That terrified me as a kid.
Yes, and again, this is adults thinking they're no kids when they don't. The drowning of and the freeze frame of the Doctor drowning.
I say kid, but last month.
I was right on the money then. If this was 77.
76.
Right, so that means I was 7, 8, depending on when it was shown in the year. So no effect at all. None effect. I loved it. This had a bit of everything. As Gary was saying, it had the grit and this.
You're not trying to drown Jamie in the bath.
Well, yeah, because
Subliminal thing.
I'm trying to do reenactments. Yeah, so we're doing. Let's play Doctor Cosplay. I think.
Let's
Right,
get the puppets in and reenact that scene.
Oh, I tell you what, I'll get them wet just for
They
you,
haven't done
Gary.
a reenactment for a while. The only
Yeah.
acting they've done is touching grass.
Exactly. Then
Oh, this one's mine.
Oh,
Great.
Yeah, I love Enlightenment. It's one of my favorite stories. I love the Black Guardian trilogy overall. But this one was a standout for me because this is the episode where Turlo thinks he has no other way out, so he throws himself off the edge.
Yes.
And that for me, that is just the selling point of this particular episode. There's nothing else, I also like the concept of obviously the Eternals. The fact that they don't change, they're time sensitive. It's a very clever creation, and I actually think it'd be a brilliant idea if you could bring them back. But for a companion that's a threat to the Doctor, which is one of my favorite things about Turlo, just to feel like he's got no other way out and just throw himself over that edge. And the fear in Mark Strichan's face is actually real fear because he hurt himself doing that, I believe.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It went wrong, didn't it? In
It
fact,
did,
he break it. He broke.
Couldn't walk for a
arm.
bit, could he, or something?
Something
Yeah.
like that. But he sold it. He carried on. He sold it. And I know this was more of a Tegan centric episode, and I know she's my favorite companion from classic era. But the award goes to Turlo in this one. I like Turlo.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they set the world up. You see, this. I mean, episode 1 and episode 2. You bought into this amazing idea that you could have a space race just as a toy. I know it's a bit more games in the way, but yeah. And actually, I know they've updated the effects in a Blu-ray, but actually, the effects were great.
Oh, they're brilliant! Absolutely brilliant.
And of course, it was episode 3 where Linda Barron really comes center stage.
Yeah.
She's brilliant. I love Linda Barron. I remember seeing her on the TV as a kid, not in Open All Hours, but there was something else that she did with an airplane and a dog. Can't remember what it is.
Outside and
That's
all around.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Up in the air or on the ground.
That's
I won't
it.
do any
That's
more.
the
I'll
one.
get copyright struck. But
That's
yeah.
it.
But yeah, this one for me was
Very good.
the standout, and I actually thought about it really hard because it's also the third in the Black Guardian series as well. So
Yeah,
See, I'd love to see the Black Guardian back again and the White Guardian. I think
you know
if
what?
it was done right, they could do it so well.
I would as well. And you might not want to talk to me again after this, but I actually think the Black Guardian trilogy is much better than The Key to Time. Just
Yeah,
saying. That's what
yeah.
I think. You may
You're
want to
talking-
go
you're talking
talk to the
overall?
hand.
You're talking overall?
Overall, yeah, I think
Yeah,
overall
yeah.
it's better than The Key to Time.
Well, the Key to Time didn't have Hippo in Mordred Undead, did they? He was a great character.
But it was The Key to Time was very, I don't know. I
Well,
like
the
it.
Key to
not my
Time
favorite.
season. The Key to Time season, I thought, had 4 strong stories, and it kind of collapsed in the last 2, and especially with the resolution of the whole thing,
Maybe it
was
was
just
too long.
bad. So yeah,
Yeah, I think you're right. I do prefer the Black Guardian trilogy.
So we're talking now, are we?
Yeah, well,
Brendan, you don't have to act as a go-between anymore.
we've been to
Doctor Who
mediation,
rules.
and we've
Yes.
come to what is it called, concordance.
I think so, yeah.
I'm gonna clip this and I'll stream it out there. This is the beauty of the sense sphere. We argue and debate, and then Doctor Who brings us back together. It's
Brendan
like-
will clip this out and then have it with violin music playing behind.
yeah, and a sick bucket as well. Yeah,
All episode, Rachel's been making a little doll of me and sticking pins in it.
Yeah. I don't know
Voodoo.
where I got that from. But
As long as you don't start saying "my right honourable gentleman" and my right honourable, you're all right. As long as you don't start talking like that, you're fine.
I'll try not to.
And this story is so good that you've got the White Guardian and the Black Guardian. He's got a crow on his head, a dead crow, and he still just nails that part. He's so good.
He's very good. And interestingly, I'll say this because people know that my favourite Doctor is the Sixth Doctor, but Enlightenment's my favourite story from Classic.
Interesting one.
Well, Gary, I think you mentioned Gary. Out of everybody, give me. I mean, Gary, it was hard to pin down, wasn't it? So you give me lists of different ones. So it was interesting. So here's one of them. I think that you did list.
This I was not on my top 3, but I just thought that it's an example of wonderful scenes that come in episode 3s, because some people think, the received wisdom is a lot of part 3s are just the running in place before the final episode. But that's not true. I just mentioned offhand this one solely for that superb scene between the Doctor and Victoria.
Yeah.
As she's just lost her father and he's trying to console her, and they're talking about how they can do things no one's ever done and how his family sleeps in his mind until he chooses. So for that scene alone, I just kind of mentioned that was in a part 3.
Yeah. Go on then. Tell us one of your substantials. I was looking at my list then, and I'll go to it. One of your substantial top 3.
Another substantial top 3 would have been Horror Fang Rock, now out on glorious Blu-ray.
Right.
Because
Brendan's put her on full screen because we're just.
There you go. It starts out with the blood-curdling scream from Reuben as he's being killed. This is the episode where the body count starts rising. Where you have Doctor and Leela just moving around the lighthouse up and down, trying to find Reuben as he's kind of keeping out of their way, but they're looking for him. You get the slap heard around the world when Adelaide freaks out and Leela belts her. And you have the mood in this is just off the charts, where you have the Rutan, climbing up, moving around outside the lighthouse, which the Doctor hasn't factored in yet because he's still thinking that it's Reuben. And the main reason I picked this is for my favorite cliffhanger in all of Doctor Who, where Tom, with his wonderful voice, whispers, "I've made a terrible mistake. I thought I locked the enemy out. Instead, I've locked it in with us." There will never be a better cliffhanger in Doctor Who than that scene.
Oh, and the way he delivers it. He's very dark in this one, isn't he, Tom Baker? He's very... I mean, I don't know, Rachel, is it such that he kind of underplays the lines or the seriousness? He kind of underdoes it?
I think so. It's not OTT.
No?
No, I don't think so. It's very understated.
Like you were saying, Rachel, about the crying in the boom with Shooty, right? And we were discussing that about 20 minutes ago. In this one, isn't it amazing that Tom Baker's Fourth Doctor doesn't go that way? He actually underplays the emotion, but he goes really steadier, stiller, doesn't he? Really?
But then I think that's also important to do. It's like you're making the audience aware that there is a danger, but you've looked it inside, and the only thing that you can do really is just at this point in a moment in time remain calm to think rational. And I think that's what he's trying to put across. But he does it. He does do it. It's a really, really good choice.
He almost whispers that last line where he says, "Instead, I've locked it in with us." It's almost whispered.
There was so much they missed. So much they missed a boom. So much they missed a boom, didn't there? And I'm staying positive with what they could have done with it. Like that should have, like some of the best episodes of New Who are where the Doctor's lost control. A good man goes to war, or Midnight, or he's really lost control, and it's how that we're not used to seeing the Doctor out of control. He's usually the one in control and in control of a situation, if only.
Sean, I was just going to say, Sean, TARDIS Travels here says no big Disney budget back then in 1977. Russell Davies, in one of his many recent interviews, has actually said, look, Doctor Who will still carry on if we don't have the Disney budget, because we could still make a horror fan rock. He actually calls it out. I'm sat there reading the article going, just make horror fan rock, please.
Yeah. And I mean, this story as well. I mean, that Tom at his best, where he walks in there and they're arguing, sits down, puts his feet up on the table, and he goes, what is it, ladies and gentlemen? I've got news for you. This lighthouse is under attack, and by morning we might all be dead. Anybody interested?
Yeah.
And it is
But
just he nails it. It's brilliant.
This goes back to theatre, doesn't it? Why does theatre work? Even the most outstanding theatre, where you've got, a West End theatre, or you see it at the Sunderland Empire, or somewhere like that, where they've got, the Lion King, they've got all these props. Why do they do so well? Why are people transported to another time with maybe just a painted backdrop? And not just the West End, even, more amateur productions in church halls and village halls. And yes, I know it sounds like the 1950s, but those still go on. And people do it for a hobby after work. Why do those transport people? Because you're sold on the strength of the people on that stage.
Yep.
You're sold by their performances. You're sold by the writing, and that's just missing from the classic. Sorry, no, it's not. Dear God, it's missing from this new era. There's no substance behind it. It looks nice, but there's just nothing behind the eyes, and there's nothing for you to latch onto. There's nothing for you to rewatch. There's no greater message in there. There's nothing to think about apart from, like you guys have all been talking, and I've been listening mainly for once. About there's a lot of politics in the old Doctor Who. It's not like they strayed away from it, and I know I don't talk about it technically, but there's lots there. It's like Star Trek. There was a lot there. It was all about the Cold War. It wasn't hard to see, but they did it in a way, doing it through other scenarios, through other planets.
You see, Sean, in this one, let's just look at the Horror Fan Rock. It is a really good one, and the episode 3 in particular does an awful lot. You saw that slide about Boom, where Doctor Who magazine said there's a bit of romance, there's a bit of this, there's a bit of that. Horror of Fan Rock is just trying to scare you to death. Yeah. And everybody dies apart from the Doctor and Leela. I'm sorry, but where's the romance? I missed that bit. Where's the other bits? RTD, you're lying. Doctor Who never did all of those things in each blooming story.
And two adults having a third grade conversation of, I like you. Do you like me? Yeah, I like you. Do you like me? Does not qualify as romance.
No.
And it's my opinion is that I don't think RTD can write sci-fi like this. I don't think he is able to do so. He has to bring that kind of soapy element to it to make it work for him.
I suppose his version of Horror Fan Rock was midnight.
I don't know, I mean, I haven't seen Horror Fan Rock, but...
Right, I'm not talking to you either now, Sean.
No, I've not
you like this one.
I was going to try and leap to RTD's defense in saying that, he has done episodes. I mean, I know it's Torchwood, but Children of Earth, yes, it's a bit sober with Jack and Yanto, but they've earned it. But the part about the 365 and all, I don't want to do too many spoilers if people haven't seen it, but that's some of the darkest stuff, and I know it's Torchwood. But that's some of the darkest stuff RTD's ever done in terms of sci-fi. So you can do it. You've got the ability to do it. Look at some of the episodes that Moffat's done. The silence and silence in the library, and you're thinking, oh my god, this could be amazing. And then they give us this, and then tell us how good it is, and you go, no. We should be able to watch this and see it for ourselves.
Well, what about this? Is one of mine. Death to the Daleks, Part 3. Now, Death to the Daleks has a bad rap. As a story. But Death to the Daleks Part 3 has a lot of things that I loved. A Dalek in a corridor where you can't get away. You always know I mentioned Planet of the Daleks. The Five Doctors and other stories have copied this Exelon City and the puzzles.
Yep.
I love the imagery of seeing a Dalek on fire and actually not invulnerable. I loved the start of episode 3 where you have that kind of the root of the
great.
And it was a good effect actually. And now look at this story. You've got walking skeletons. As a little kid watching this, I wanted was it Bilal? I wanted Bilal to be a companion. I loved him. I thought he was so lovely, and it was like this lovely cute.
He was like
alien.
A child.
Yeah. So you had Bilal, the friendly Exelon. I know he was from a different kind of element of it. The Exelons were scary as hell. That choral singing and sacrifice. You have corridors. Doctor Who needs corridors. Let's not forget. You've got the Root. So you've got one monster. I mean, the Root's one monster. You've got the Daleks, another monster. You've got the Exelons, to me as a kid, was another monster. And there was a hell of a tale. It was a yarn. And episode 3 was all about going inside the city. and suddenly how long is this going to go? And of course, the only thing that lets episode 3 down, can anyone think of it?
The cliffhanger.
The cliffhanger, which was, I mean, I only saw it the other day, and it's not a cliffhanger.
No.
Do you know what? Also, in this story, you have a brilliant, devious human officer in it as well. He played it brilliantly. Galloway. It's Galloway, isn't it? He is just.
Well,
the
Terry
actor who plays
Nation's
him is
Terry
brilliant.
Nation stories always need a traitor in there somewhere.
And the thing I would say as well is, from talking about Shooty earlier, people might think that I can't stand actors. That's not the case. I mean, I'm amazed at what actors can.
Rachael's one.
Good going, John.
Yeah. I'm amazed at what actors can do, because the skill to bring a script to life the way they do is incredible.
Yeah.
And when I look back at Doctor Who and I see Tom doing his things, I see Pertwee doing his things, I see character actors doing their things, they are superb at it. But when I see Shooty, I don't see him in the same league as those people I've talked about. It's just,
I think they've
they're
jumped
on
the
a
gun with him.
completely different level.
I don't think he's ready yet. He's had one big show in Sex Education. I think they've jumped the gun. He's had bits in other things. I think they've jumped the gun. He has the potential to be a great character actor, but he needs a few more, notches. He needs a few more strings to his bow before he could be considered to. Oh, it's Julian Glover. Before he could be considered to do. And that's what I was going to ask about Classic Who. Dead quickly, honestly, I promise. Is what I liked about Classic Who, because I've been rewatching some of them, is that nowadays in like 2005 to 2017 Who, they all the companions apart from like Nardole, whatever his name was, I wasn't a big fan. All the companions were from Earth, and I like the fact that Classic Who the Doctor used to pick up companions from different. So they had like they had different like in the Dalek one where the Invasion of the Daleks, where you get people from other planets and they have different kind of like outlooks on life than humans, even like 60s humans. I like that aspect, and I'd like to see that come back in some kind of way, because I'm fed up of just normal young humans. I know that sounds a bit odd.
No,
so is this yours, John?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And again, this is on the list for anyone. There's probably a lot in the chat that will just say this is up there as one of their favorites, but City of Death is superb. Episode 3, I just love it because it's just a romp. It just accelerates this story. And I love, you see in the top, right at the top there, you've got Duggan, and they break into the cafe and he smashes the wine bottle to get himself a drink of wine. He's just trying to drink from the broken glass, and he just plays it brilliantly. And then you've got the Fourth Doctor, talking, in Renaissance Italy. It's Italy, isn't it? Or is it France? Italy, yeah. And they're talking about the thumb screws, and he's his thumbs. Tom's playing it brilliantly.
Yep.
And then it just every single element of that third episode just is fun.
Is this the one where it starts with him at the end of the? He comes in, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Captain 10 credit out. It's the bit I played. Remember, I just started recording them on audio. So I'd started with Destiny of the Daleks. This was the second one.
Yeah.
And it's this episode that I play all the time, the audio, which is
great.
You can call it high camp if you want, but the dialogue, when it's like, what are you doing here? That's the question I ought to be asking you, Doctor. Love it.
And exactly. And I also love later on where Duggan, in that bit there, they're saying about, they've got to go back to the chateau. And Duggan's basically saying they'll break in, and then you see a scene later and he's got his hands up against the wall with Romana, and they're basically saying they cannot be professionals. And then Julian Glover's basically going, well, you didn't have to arrive. Well, I can hardly call it stealth, but it's just everything works lovely in this story.
And we've been talking numbers a lot during this stream. This episode, I just looked it up. This episode got 15.5 million viewers.
Yeah.
And the next episode got over 16.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, it's not this episode 3, but one of my favorite Doctor Who moments ever is where the Fourth Doctor and Romana are sat down, and then basically the Fourth Doctor goes, "Romana, you know that strange guy that was following us earlier?" And she goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, he's standing behind me poking a gun in my back." It's just brilliant. You know,
Yeah.
it's great. It is great.
True. It is true. When Gary mentioned that, I was trying to think what TARDIS Travels has said. Yeah, the ITV was on strike, but tough on them. They're on strike.
Yeah.
I mean, the figures are the figures. End of. What about this one then? I think it's Rachael.
Oh.
Actually, we were going to have another panelist on, Scott, on the Wednesday before I had my entropy affecting the stream, and he also picked this. But Rachael,
Turn my sound on. That's always useful. Oh, really? Okay, so that's interesting. Right. Okay. So hear me out, because I know this isn't really the most popular Doctor story, and to be honest
Cover
with
your
you,
ears, John.
I think that yeah, cover your ears, John. No, the thing is, I actually have high praise for this one. Out of the at this point, it's the third multi-Doctor story. Have I got that correct? And I actually think this one is the strongest out of all of them, because it's not filled with the pomp. Oh, Doctor, oh, Doctor, oh, Doctor, you're so good. Oh, Doctor, you know, it's not filled with all of that. It's actually become a sort of this issue where the Doctor needs to save his past self from turning into an androgyne, and I and it's like it's a three-parter as well, isn't it? I always forget that it's a three-parter. Everything
yeah,
all right?
and this part 3, we're mostly in Seville, aren't we? It moves-
Yeah. They had a lot of things that were going on at the time that plagued the production of this particular episode. But yeah, the Doctor, well, Colin Baker's Doctor has to actually stop himself for his past version of himself turning into an androgyne. But then it becomes a bit of a dilemma, because he starts having a taste for cats, isn't it? And it's like, how is he going to get out of this situation? And well, you know, I mean, the resolution isn't brilliant, but with regards to it being a multi-Doctor story, it's actually one of my favorites. And this particular resolution is
you had
the better one.
did you everybody nowadays needs to relate to somebody on screen? You know, that's how the world works.
Yeah.
Did you relate to the budding thespian who died?
No. Was I supposed to?
Well, you would nowadays. Everybody has to. You have to find
I
yourself on
suppose
screen.
so.
It's his
I
own
suppose
fault for
so.
going looking for butterflies and moths, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, it is his own fault. And as you can see, we've had a costume change from the original waistcoat to something more lurid. They've ditched the actual coat that I want for cosplay, but one of the worst costume designs ever, but mega cut. You know, so there's a lot of things going for this, but I think Pat Troughton's also brilliant in this as well.
Yeah.
And I think Colin is actually a very similar Doctor to Pat Troughton in many respects too.
Yeah. And when I was sat with Colin all day at the convention in Blackpool last year, looking after him while Jamie looked after Nicola, Patrick Troughton was mentioned a fair bit. I mean, fans were asking him, of course, but he was telling me bits and bobs. Nothing that I'd need to say now that you haven't heard before, but you can hear the love and the total respect Colin Baker did have for Patrick Troughton. And you know, nearly every Doctor since Patrick Troughton have said their Doctor is Patrick Troughton, because he was the man who took the risk. And
well, he had to, didn't he? Because he was coming in, and it was going to have to go in a completely different direction in many respects. So it was a big jump.
And I do like that scene as well, where you talk about Patrick Troughton, where he's in the kitchen, he's moving along the knives, and suddenly he pulls out a cucumber. You know,
yeah.
There were certainly some things in this that were totally played for laughs.
Yeah.
And I think they made the right move of turning Pat Troughton's Doctor into an androgyne and making Colin's Doctor the hero. That was the right thing to do. Putting the Doctor in peril here was the right thing.
Yeah.
It was interesting to have, you had Cassini licking blood from the floor, didn't you?
Yeah.
You had the Sontarans, one of my favourite bits, because I needed action. And I agree with Taddis Travels. There were so many problems with these Sontarans.
Yeah, they were really tall.
I did like, I mean, it wasn't in episode 3 though. I did see the 3 spaceships and a bit of action. However, in episode 3, you had the double bluff. You know, that moment when the Sontarans are out, out strategized, so to speak. I do need a bit of action.
Well, you did see a leg as well, a Sontaran leg at one point as well, you know, because isn't the Antragum going off to cook it? Because he holds it up, doesn't he? He holds it.
Yes,
the Antragum holds the leg, and he's like, you know, I think he says something about he's going to go and cook it.
Well, I've already shown that one. I'm doing repeats now. I think BBC do repeats. So what was I going to show next? Let's have a look. Oh yes, we're getting there now. So let's have a look. Logopolis. So it was listed. I don't know if Gary's listed it or whatever, but obviously Logopolis. Go on, Gary. I think you did.
Oh, it wasn't my top 3. I just mentioned, I think in what I'd given to you, that this is just another example of a very strong episode 3. It starts out with the TARDIS shrinking. This is the episode where we really find out how important Logopolis is to the existence of the universe.
Yeah.
The Watcher shows up. He showed up in like the last 5 seconds of part 2, but he's walking all over the place in Logopolis in this one, and then he takes off with Adric and Nyssa in the TARDIS later. And then it has that great scene toward the end where the Doctor just kind of rails against his companions, where it's like, you know, Tegan, you begged me to help you, and Adric, a stowaway. And then he just kind of goes off on the 3 of them. And then he agrees to work with the Master, I think in the scene at the bottom right, where it's the close-up of their handshake, and the Doctor says, "One last hope." You know, so it's a lot of stuff happens in this episode.
I mean, I agree with you. I just like that. Again, what did Doctor Who do in Logopolis? It established a tone, and it just focused on that. I didn't try and do romance, slapstick, this, that, and the other. And I think this is the important. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. So sorry, it seems to be doing that. I have tried.
That's all right. I need more screen time.
Yeah, you do. You haven't had enough.
For me.
Sean's list must be about a foot long by now. You know, writing down all these.
I was waiting for Earthshock, which I've seen.
Earthshock is it. So
Sean,
I'm
not allowed out this weekend, all right?
That was Earthshock's
all of it. He's got to watch everything this till Monday, all right?
I was really hoping to get out and touch grass.
Well, you could have. You could be a mummy in episode 3 and maybe walk on grass. That's what you could do. I mean, I was amazed John didn't pick this, because I think from another stream you've said this is probably your favorite story, isn't it? Really?
It is, but I went with something else that's special.
Yeah, but this episode 3, Sutek is more kind of, you know, he is very threatening now. You've got all that action with the spaceship, the rocket, so they call it, and the mummies lining stuff up. The Doctor dressed as a mummy, of course. You also have in episode 3 that great sequence when he's laser sharp. He's so strict with the humans who start to kind of grieve for their brother who died weeks ago, you know, the Scarman brother. He is scathing. And again, so it had strong Doctor. It had Sarah being blooming good with a shot. The Doctor dressed up, you know, camouflage. You had Sutek, who everybody guesses he's coming back at the end of season 1. Not just me. There's a big, strong guess that Sutek's coming back. But Sutek has to be like this, RTD. He has to be like this.
No, not going to get that, are we?
No.
No, we're not.
No, not a chance. I mean,
wait, did we just agree on something tonight?
We did. Just stick that in the bank.
Time code this, Brendan.
Brendan, shut it down now.
I know it's gonna go.
So kicking off.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just getting everything ready. There was one I agreed with Gary, and Sean just asked it then. I haven't got the slide. Gary, Earthshock part 3.
Earthshock. Episode 3 is, to me, the strongest of the whole story. It's where the Doctor finally realizes he's fighting the Cybermen in that great scene, well directed, where you hear Adric say, "What are they?" And then the close up on Peter Davison is he whispers Cybermen, and he realized from his face, he's like, "Oh crap." You have the really well sustained action sequence where almost the whole episode is the assault on the bridge of the ship, and them frantically trying to figure out a way to keep the Cybermen from coming on board. The great scene where the Doctor melds the Cybermen into the bulkhead, which is one of the best effect shots of this whole era. And another great line at the end. For me, I realized when I was making this list that what makes episode 3's most memorable for me are the last lines. We had a great last line in Horror of Fang Rock, great last line in Caves of Androzani, and here where the Cybermen finally bust into the bridge and the cyber leader says, "My army awakes, Doctor." And so it's great last lines help make these episodes so memorable.
Edgedock's a brilliant story all around, I think.
Yes, I can't disagree with that. In fact, I think I had it on my list. For some reason, I just didn't prepare it. I don't know how that happened. I think it was entropy. I think it was failing to reverse the polarity.
I mean, the androids at the beginning in the first episode, that's great on its own. Before you even get anything of the Cybermen, it's just another great banger of a story.
The music in this, the kind of techno, almost metallic sound of the music adds so much to this story.
Yeah.
Well, let's round off, John. Come on then, let's round off.
Right, okay. Absolutely adore this story. And what I love about Claws of Axos, and in particular episode 3, is you have the Master teaming up with Unit because the Doctor has been captured by Axos, and it is just played brilliantly, and the Master is just on top form, his devious best. I love the fact you've got that axon that goes through the nuclear plant, and they've got the shot of him going across the top, coming down the stairs, wiping out the Unit soldiers. This is such a good story, and I never get tired of Claws of Axos. It's so good. It is really good. You must watch it.
Listen to the Colin Baker story of Axos as well on Big Finish.
Yeah,
that's
very
fantastic.
Good.
It has to me my favorite master line of any master line in any Doctor Who story, where he's busted into the Doctor's TARDIS and he's despairing about all the wreck that it is. And he says, "You might as well be trying to fly a secondhand gas stove."
Yeah. And what's the other thing he says as well when the Brigadier says, "Is there anything else we can do?" And he says, "Oh, the usual things. You can put sticky tape on windows, that sort of thing."
Blue Peter. No, it should be sticky back plastic, isn't it?
Well, I hope hopefully we've entertained people tonight with nostalgia and right up to date. We've covered 61 years of Doctor Who tonight, and hopefully it hasn't left people feeling like that. We've actually we've done our comfort blanket. Please, if you like this, we'll do more. So please, I can't even keep updating my subscriptions. Give us a subscribe. Look out Rachel's channel as well. Chat about it, John. Shout about it. She's going great guns. This will normally not be the end of the week show. It'll be a midweek show at 7 p.m. So look out for that. And I hope you've really enjoyed this. I think you've got it out of your system, haven't you? We've criticised, but we've loved. And that's the thing about Doctor Who.
The demon has been purged. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've had images like that.
Is that hey Brandon? Tell me that's not a scene from next season.
It is.
It's all very possible, isn't it? I mean, honestly, there's
Cybermen. Yeah.
I think Willie's worse for wear. I've got Capaldi in there. I mean, honestly, I had them already, and look at that. I mean, he suits that, doesn't he? Look at that. Oh, dear me. But then this was one of my favorites. I just thought, look at that, the Master. It's kind of the reverse of the Sea Devils when the Master was watching the the Clanners, wasn't it? The Clanners are out the cage and he's in it there. It's a bit. I don't know.
Great.
So there you go. There you go. A bit of nostalgia, a bit of love of Doctor Who. Thank you to all the panel. We'll be back on Sunday at 7 p.m. reviewing 73 Yards. We'll be back again on Wednesday at 7 p.m. With our fun nostalgia, up to date, blah, blah, blah. And click on notifications because I do my saloon on Tuesdays. I do some Sensefear shorts. Basically, I'm here. So thanks to everybody. And you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to play our little kind of jaunty little theme tune. And I will make sure I don't tick you all off. Of course, that would be rude. So here we go. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah.
How many calorie I'm burning?
I'm not burning much.
Yeah, you want to...
I am Madonna.
There you go.